Chapter 827. Yun Luofeng silently walked to the side of the two guards. He frowned slightly when he sensed the smell coming from their bodies. The aphrodisiac was colorless and tasteless to others, but she could still sense it in front of Yun Luofeng. The two of them have been poisoned by the aphrodisiac. Yun Luofeng lifted his head slightly and said indifferently, "Boom." When Yun Luofeng mentioned the aphrodisiac, Shui Ro's mind exploded. She knew. How could she know? Shui Ro bit her lips. She thought about how Yun Xiao was unaffected by the aphrodisiac and how Yun Luofeng sensed the aphrodisiac so quickly. She suddenly felt that she had been tricked. Aphrodisiac? Jun Fengling was stunned. She did not know medicine, but she knew about aphrodisiac. She did not expect Shui Ro to bring the aphrodisiac to harm her son. Instantly, Jun Fengling was enraged. She looked at Yi Qi angrily and said, "Look, this is your friend. She can forget about leaving the Yi residence today." Yi Qi's face was pale. She hurriedly looked at Shui Ro, hoping for an explanation. However, there was nothing. Shui Ro widened her eyes in panic and stared at Yun Luofeng. At that moment, her heart turned cold. Could it be that Shui Ro's motive for coming to the Yi residence was for Yun Xiao? "Feng, can you cure the two of them?" Jun Fengling looked at Yun Luofeng again and asked. Yun Luofeng smiled and said, "The aphrodisiac is not a serious illness. The two of them were just bewitched. I only need one needle to make them go back to normal." Then, Yun Luofeng took out a needle pouch from his clothes and carefully took out a silver needle. He then inserted it into the guard's Shunting acupuncture point. In no time, the two guards regained their clarity. They looked at each other in dismay, not knowing what had happened. After a long time, the two of them remembered what they had just done and their expressions changed drastically. "Sir, madam, please have mercy. I don't know what happened, but when Shui Ro begged me, I couldn't reject her. Please give me another chance." The guard kowtowed fiercely and begged. "Although this wasn't your intention, if you hadn't given her a chance, she wouldn't have been able to harm you with her charm. So, you still have to pay the price for your mistakes." Jun Fengling looked heroic. "Men, take the two of them down. Lock them up for 3 months and deduct half a year's salary." The guards understood that Jun Fengling was being merciful by giving them such a punishment. They hurriedly kowtowed to express their gratitude and followed the other two guards down. Since the aphrodisiac had been removed, they didn't even glance at Shui Ro. Suddenly, a man in black walked up to Jun Fengling's ear and whispered a few words to her. The smile on Jun Fengling's lips deepened when she heard the man in black's words. "Bring him here." "Yes, madam." The man in black accepted the order and retreated. After the man in black left, Jun Fengling looked at the ashen-faced Shui Ro and said, "Shui Ro, I've brought someone to see you. You will definitely be very interested in this person." As soon as he finished speaking, the black-clothed man walked over with a burly man in his hand. He threw the burly man to the ground. Chapter 828. "It's you?" Yi Qi was stunned, her face full of astonishment. "It seems like you know him." Jun Fengling glanced at Yi Qi, his tone indifferent. Yi Qi nodded slightly. "When Roer and I were in the restaurant, this was the man who informed her that her house was on fire. The man in front of her was the one who had gone to inform Shui Ro of the fire." Yi Qi naturally had an impression of him. At this moment, Yi Qi did not notice that when Shui Ro saw the man who had been caught, her pale face became even more desperate. "You only know that he's the one who went to inform Shui Ro, but you don't know that he's Shui Ro's uncle." Jun Fengling laughed coldly. Yi Qi's mind went blank as if she had been struck by lightning. She turned to Shui Ro blankly. "Can you tell me what's going on? What's your relationship with this man?" Since this man was Shui Ro's uncle, why did he have time to inform Shui Ro, but not to save her? Moreover, she did not forget that it was because of this man's words that she had misunderstood fire. "Save me." The burly man saw Shui Ro lying in a pool of blood and said hurriedly, "I'm your uncle, you can't just watch me die. Admit that you did everything and it has nothing to do with me." Shui Ro's body trembled. She bit her lips and did not say a word. Her slightly lowered eyes were filled with despair and a layer of hatred that could not be erased. Madam Yi, please let me go. Seeing that Shui Ro her did not respond, the burly man hurriedly knelt in front of Jun Fengling. It's Shui Ro. She returned to the Shui family that day and claimed that she could become Madam Ye's daughter-in-law, but she needed our help. That's why I listened to her and reported the fire. I even deliberately said that the one who set the fire was a little girl in red. Jun Fengling raised his eyebrows. Then do you know who set the fire? I know. The burly man did not dare to hide anything. It's Shui Ro. She set the fire herself and burned her mother to death. The Shui family said that they could accept her, but not her bedridden mother. In order to get rid of this burden, she decided to burn her mother as well. At that time, I could still hear her mother's mournful cries. She screamed Shui Ro's name, but she didn't know that the one who set the fire was the daughter she was so proud of. After the burly man finished speaking, Yi Qi's body stiffened. She looked at Shui Ro in disbelief and asked in a hoarse voice, "Did you set the fire?" "It wasn't me." Shui Ro screamed, "It wasn't me. It wasn't me." Shui Ro said, "It's Shui Ro." "Shui," the man said. She. Shui, the man said. You told the Shui family that as long as you set the house on fire, Miss Yi Qi would take pity on you and let you live in the Yi residence. As long as you enter the Yi residence, you will be able to seduce young Master Xiao. Yi Qi smiled, but there was a hint of bitterness in her smile. Yi Qi smiled bitterly and said, I was curious why you were so late today. You told me that you were late because you had something to attend to at the last minute. It turns out that you had something to attend to. Chapter 829. Yi Qi was already walking towards Shui Roer as she spoke. Qi, Shui Roer looked a little flustered. Don't you trust me? Yi Qi sneered. How could I not trust you? It's because I trust you that my big brother is bitterly disappointed. It's also because I trust you that I've always been used by you. Big brother is right. Even if I'm sold, I'll still count the money for her. At this moment, Yi Qi's tone was filled with despair. She was obviously hurt by her most trusted friend. Shui Roer, you don't have to explain anymore. If it was my big brother, second brother, or second sister-in-law who went to investigate the truth, I would definitely believe you. However, this time, my adoptive mother has personally sent people there. How could I possibly trust you? Yi Qi said with a cold smile. Besides, I still remember that when I saw you today, you were hanging on a straw. Now that I think about it, that straw is the evidence of your murder. Shui Roer became dispirited. She knew that no matter how much she tried to explain, it would be useless against her. Suddenly, she started roaring with laughter. Her laughter was desolate, and it was like the wailing of ghosts and the howling of wolves as it reverberated in the wind. So what if I did it? My fate is so tragic. My father doesn't want me, and I need to rely on my sick mother. Do you know how much effort I've put in to return to the Shui family all these years? As long as I become Yun Zhao's wife, I will be protected by Madame Yi. By then, the Shui family will carry me back in a sedan chair. If it wasn't for fate, how could I have done such a thing? So, Yi Qi, I really envy you. You have no parents, but you were lucky enough to be adopted by the Yi family. Why don't I have the same luck? Up until now, Shui Roer had pushed all her mistakes to fate. However, she had never reflected on her own actions. Yi Qi closed her eyes slightly. After a long while, she opened her eyes. Foster mother, I've said it before. If Shui Roer really wronged Fire, no matter if I kill or cut her, I won't say a word for her. No, take her back. Jun Fengling sighed. I'll handle the rest. All right. Yi Shima glanced at Yi Qi. Let's go. After what happened today, he understood that Yi Qi would definitely change. She would not be as gullible as she used to be. Qi. Shui Roer panicked and reached out to grab Yi Qi. Don't go. I know I was wrong. I really was wrong. I don't want to die yet. Please don't leave me behind. In the past, Yi Qi would have stayed behind to plead for Shui Roer. But now, she followed Yi Shima without hesitation. Jun Fengling smiled. How do you want to deal with her? Yun Luo Feng gently stroked his chin. She wants to seduce my man, That means she really likes men. Maybe the brothel will be interested in her. Alright. Jun Fengling immediately slapped the table and made a decision. This woman has lost an arm, but her looks are passable. We should be able to sell her for a few dozen taels of silver. Upon hearing that she was going to be sent to the brothel, Shui Rower hurriedly struggled. Unfortunately, before she could struggle, Yi Jingchen had already exhausted her strength. Someone, sell her to the Drunken Flower Brothel. Also, tell the owner of the Drunken Flower Brothel to take good care of her. Chapter 830. Yes. Hearing this, a guard immediately stepped forward and carried Shui Ro over the wall. Shui Rower had recovered from her initial despair. As long as Jun Fengling didn't kill her on the spot, she would have a chance to escape. She might even have a chance to take revenge. Unfortunately, dreams were beautiful, but reality was cruel. Shui Rower ignored the word, take care, in Jun Fengling's words. When she arrived at the Drunken Flower Brothel, she finally understood what a real nightmare was. Those men were like wolves and tigers, each of them trying their best to torture her. In addition, her abilities had been destroyed, so how could she withstand the torment? Not long after, she passed away regretfully under the torment of those men. Since then, Shui Rower no longer existed in this world. When the news of Shui Rower's death reached Yi Qi, she was already crying tears of joy over Jun Fengling's pregnancy. How could she have the time to care about her? That's right. Over the past few months, Jun Fengling had completely recovered under Yun Luofeng's treatment. She was already pregnant. With this good news, Yi Jingchen and his wife naturally doted on Yun Luofeng to the core. They were afraid that he would melt in their mouths and fall in their hands. Yi Qi wasn't as hostile towards Yun Luofeng as she had been in the beginning. Instead, she was grateful that Yun Luofeng had helped Jun Fengling. Moreover, her behavior towards Yun Luofeng was instigated by Shui Rower. Now that she knew Shui Rower's true colors, how could she continue to be hostile towards her? But she had made so many mistakes that she didn't dare to face Yun Luofeng even now. At that moment, in the courtyard of the Yi residence, Yi Qi was about to instruct the kitchen to prepare Jun Fengling's meal when she heard a young girl's voice. Yi Qi, where is mother now? Yi Qi was stunned. She raised her head and looked at the young girl's beautiful and charming face. She asked blankly, "Are you talking to me?" Yun Luofeng frowned. "I'm looking for her." Yi Qi suddenly snapped out of her trance. She had mixed feelings. She's in the living room. The Yi family is here and she's receiving them. I understand. Yun Luofeng turned and walked towards the living room. Suddenly, a delicate voice sounded out from behind her, causing her to stop in her tracks. Sorry. Yi Qi lowered her head and said apologetically, "I know you won't forgive me, but I still want to apologize to you. If I hadn't been so stupid back then, I wouldn't have listened to Shui Roer's provocation and done something that you hate." Yun Luofeng's back was facing Yi Qi and his voice was calm. "Yi Qi, for the sake of my mother, I'll give you a piece of advice. Everyone in this world will harm you, but your family will never. Everyone in this world will harm you, only your family will never." Yi Qi was stunned. She stared blankly at Yun Luofeng's back as he left. She could not come back to her senses for a long time. In the lobby, Yi Jingchen and Jun Fengling sat on the main seats and looked at the middle-aged man coldly. The middle-aged man put down the teacup in his hand and smiled. "Eldest young master, young madam, second young master has convinced the other elders in the clan to allow you to return to the Ye family. As for Kargalik, I will be in charge of it for the time being." Yi Jingchen's face darkened. He snorted coldly. Would that guy be so kind? He had his eyes on the Yi family firm's current strength. Does he want you to replace me? Let me tell you, I will never leave Kargalik. The Yi family firm now possessed items such as the spirit-gathering elixir and had brought great benefits to the firm. How could his greedy brother let go of such a good thing? That was why he had sent someone to replace him. Chapter 831. Eldest young master, second young master is the future head of the Yi family after all. Since he wants you to leave Kargalik, how can you defy him? Actually, this is all your fault. If you hadn't married a hen that can't lay eggs, second young master wouldn't have become the future head of the Yi family. The middle-aged man relied on his power as the Yi family's second young master to look down on Yi Jingxian. In terms of talent and ability, Yi Jingxian was undoubtedly the best. Unfortunately, he had lost because he had married a hen that could not lay eggs. How could the future head of the Yi family not have an heir? Yi Jingxian laughed icily. I'm being chased out of Kargalik so that you can take over the Yi family business. Do you dare say that it wasn't because my younger brother coveted the spirit-gathering medicinal liquid? The middle-aged man smiled. He was not angry. Eldest young master, only you would be so stupid as to sell something like the spirit-gathering medicinal liquid. If I were in charge of the Yi family business, I would use all the spirit-gathering medicinal liquid to increase the Yi family's power. Furthermore, I will recruit the person who supplied the spirit-gathering elixir and make him work for me. Ha! Yi Jingxian burst into laughter. His laughter was laced with anger. Do you think that a mysterious and powerful person who could produce something like the spirit-gathering medicinal liquid would willingly work for the Yi family? Eldest young master, the fact that you can't recruit him means that you don't have the ability. The middle-aged man slowly rose and smiled. After all, you've already been chased out of the Yi family. If second young master hadn't been kind enough to allow you to return, you would never have been able to step into the Yi family. However, second young master is different from you. He is the future head of the Yi family. When others hear his name, they can't wait to curry favor with him. Why would they reject him? Yi Jingxian's expression changed abruptly. His gentle eyes burned with anger and his tightly clenched fists trembled uncontrollably. However, at this moment, a languid laughter suddenly rang out from outside the hall. Don't you know that the person who sold the spirit-gathering medicinal liquid was only willing to trade with him because he heard of father and mother's reputation? If it had been someone else, I'm afraid that they wouldn't have been able to obtain the medicinal liquid. Outside the hall, sunlight poured down. The young girl was dressed in white and leaned lazily against the door frame. The corners of her lips curled into a devilish smile as she glanced at the middle-aged man sitting in the hall. A cold light flashed in the depths of her eyes. She had obviously been here for some time. Seeing that Jun Fengling had a guest, she didn't come out to disturb him. But in the end, she couldn't help but speak out. These people made it sound like they were being merciful by summoning Yi Jingxian back to the Yi family, but in reality, they coveted the spirit-gathering liquid in the Yi family's business. But now, he was still acting so pompously. Did he really think that everyone in the world was a fool? Who are you? How dare you? The middle-aged man's face darkened. Who allowed you to appear here? You really have no manners at all. Since the appearance of the middle-aged man, Jun Fengling had been silent. Now that he had seen him teach Yun Luofeng a lesson, his expression immediately darkened. She's my daughter-in-law. You'd better be polite. Daughter-in-law? The middle-aged man frowned slightly and a look of disgust flashed across his eyes. So this is your bastard's wife. At the end of the day, she's just a bastard. Eldest young master, even if you want to marry, you should find a better woman. This kind of woman even gave birth to a bastard. What right does she have to be the young madam of the Yi family? Chapter 8:32. Jun Fengling was enraged and broke the table into two with a bang. Then he leaped towards the middle-aged man, his eyes filled with murderous intent. However, a figure was one step ahead of her. In just 2 steps, the figure arrived in front of the middle-aged man and kicked him in the crotch. Under the intense pain, the middle-aged man let out a mournful howl. Bastard? Then I'll make sure you can't even have a bastard now. The young lady's eyes were wild and her lips curled up slightly. Didn't you insult Yun Xiao as a bastard? If that's the case, then I'll make sure he can't even have a bastard. Damned girl, just you wait. The middle-aged man gritted his teeth and glared at Yun Luofeng, then turned towards Yi Jingxian and his wife. Eldest young master, young madam, don't you owe me an explanation? I'm someone sent by second young master after all. Yi Jingxian coughed dryly and said, What happened just now? Why didn't I see anything? Wife, did you see anything? Jun Fengling had already retracted his killing intent and was trying to hold back his laughter. I saw that Yi Ran didn't manage to steady himself and fell. Who knew that he would just happen to straddle a pillar, making his balls hurt? The middle-aged man who was addressed as Yi Ran almost went mad from anger. This was really a shameless family. They were simply lying with their eyes closed. Good, very good. I'll report this to eldest young master. The middle-aged man gritted his teeth fiercely. His hand was still on his crotch, and his face was covered in cold sweat from the pain. Wait! Seeing that the middle-aged man was about to turn and leave, the young lady's lazy shout suddenly rang out, causing him to stop in his tracks. What else do you want? The middle-aged man turned around and glared at Yun Luofeng. Yun Luofeng smiled devilishly. Is the Yi family's rule that a servant is allowed to shout at his master? The middle-aged man was stunned. All these years, he had been used to acting like a tyrant with second young master. How could he still remember Yi Jingxin's identity? But my master is the second young master. Cold sweat broke out on his forehead as he tried to argue his way out of this. Your surname is Yi. The young lady raised her arrogant brows. Since your surname is Yi, then you're a dog of the Yi family. But you don't place master in your eyes at all. Then what do you want? Kneel down and apologize. The young lady's words were merciless, causing Yi Ran's body to tremble. Apologize? Impossible. I only recognize second young master. I don't recognize anyone else. Bang! After Yi Ran said this, the young lady's leg kicked out fiercely, sending his body flying out and crashing fiercely into the wall. He felt pain all over his body, and even a few of his bones were broken. Apologize. The young lady closed in on Yi Ran, looking down at him coldly with an insolent gaze. I don't. Before Yi Ran could finish his words, the young lady raised her leg once again and slid down fiercely from the air. She stomped on his chest, causing him to throw up 3 liters of blood, and his countenance turned pale. This time around, Yun Luofeng did not waste his breath on him. He grabbed Yi Ran's shirt and forcefully pressed him onto the ground, making him kneel before Yi Jingxin and his wife. Yi Ran knew that if he did not apologize this time around, he would not be able to leave so easily. He hurriedly kowtowed and said in a terrified voice, Eldest young master, young madam, it's my fault. I shouldn't have taken advantage of my position to bully you. Please let me off. I'll scram back to the Yi family right away and never dare to offend eldest young master and young madam again. Chapter 8:33. His kowtow was very loud. In just a short while, his forehead turned red, and blood seeped out from the corner of his forehead. Remember, you're just a servant. A servant can never be disrespectful to their master. Scram immediately. Yun Luofeng let go of his hand, and his eyes were filled with malice. Since she had accepted Yi Jingxin and his wife, she would never allow anyone to be disrespectful to them. Not even the Yi family. Yi Ran hurriedly stumbled out of the door. Perhaps he was afraid that Yun Luofeng would make him stay if he stayed for even a moment longer. Sigh. Yi Jingxin smiled bitterly as he watched Yi Ran leave. If my younger brother hears about this, he'll probably hate me even more. Yun Luofeng smiled and asked, will he not hate you if you don't do this? Yi Jingxin suddenly returned to his senses. That's right. Even if he didn't beat Yi Ran up, his younger brother would still hate him. Since that was the case, what did it matter if he attacked Yi Ran or not? At most, it would only deepen his hatred. Brother Yi, Jun Fengling frowned slightly. In the past, when I was with you in the Yi family, I could bear with it no matter how much I suffered. But now, I've found my son and daughter-in-law. If the Yi family bullies them, don't blame me for turning against you. Yi Jingxin smiled warmly and raised his arms to protect Jun Fengling. Jun, you've misunderstood. The reason why I was worried before wasn't because I still cared about the Yi family. I was only afraid that my younger brother would hurt you. However, Feng is right. Even if this hadn't happened, he wouldn't have let our family off. If Jun Fengling had not appeared, the position of the head of the Yi family would definitely have belonged to Yi Jingxin. It would not have been his turn. If Jun Fengling had gotten pregnant, the position of the head of the family might have shifted again. How could he not hate Yi Jingxin when there was such a danger? Why would he not want to harm Yi Jingxin's life? Therefore, even if Yun Luofeng had not done such a thing, he would not have let Yi Jingxin off. Jun, don't worry. You're my only family. If the Yi family really wants to hurt you, I'll risk my life to ensure your safety. Yi Jingqian's eyes were filled with determination. Ever since the Yi family chased them out of the clan a few years ago, he had been bitterly disappointed. In this life, the only person he cared about was Jun Fengling. Towards Yun Xiao and Yun Luofeng, it was only out of love for them. Father, mother, Yun Luofeng raised the corners of his lips. Next time, if young Master Yi wants the Yi family firm again, you can ruthlessly extort a sum of money from him and then give the Yi family firm to him. Yi Jingqian was stunned for a moment. He frowned slightly. I'm afraid that's not appropriate. No matter how precious the items I extort are, they can't compare to the spirit-gathering medicinal liquid in the shop. Yun Luofeng raised his brows and smiled. Don't worry. The Yi clan trading company is just an empty shell to him. Moreover, what I said to Yi Ran earlier was not a threat. Once the Yi clan trading company changes hands, there will no longer be any spirit-gathering medicinal liquid. Why? Yi Jingqian was even more surprised. Yi Shima had always been managing the Yi family's business, so he did not know the exact situation. While Yi Jingqian was still confused, Yi Shima's hearty voice came from outside the hall. Godfather, godmother, this matter is very simple. Sister-in-law was the one who provided the spirit-gathering medicinal liquid. Yi Jingqian's heart skipped a beat. The initial shock in his eyes had already turned into shock. His breathing also quickened slightly. Is what your brother said true? You were the one who provided the spirit-gathering medicinal liquid? Chapter 8:34. Facing the man who was as gentle as jade, Yun Luofeng lightly nodded his head. This is why I said that once the company changes owners, there will be no more spirit-gathering elixirs. Yi Jingqian was dumbfounded. After all this time, the person who sold the elixir was actually Yun Luofeng? The funny thing was that his younger brother wanted to take away the trading company. Compared to Yi Jingqian, Jun Fengling was much calmer. She patted Yun Luofeng on the shoulder and wanted to say something, but it turned into a sigh in the end. My daughter-in-law is truly capable. As a mother-in-law, I have to look at her in a different light every time. However, I'm proud of you. Jun Fengling was very proud. Indeed, who else in this world could have such a capable daughter-in-law like her? It seemed like his son had good taste, unlike Yi Jingqian's younger brother, Yi Jingxian, who was as proud as a peacock just because his son was favored by the princess. How could that princess compare to his daughter-in-law? Yi Jingqian smiled bitterly as he stroked Yun Luofeng's hair. You've really given me a fright. However, you must hide the things in your hands well. Don't let anyone else see them. Otherwise, it's inevitable that someone will try to steal them. Yun Luofeng narrowed his eyes slightly and smiled evilly. Since you already know the source of the spirit-gathering liquid, when the time comes, after extorting a sum of money, give the trading company to him. Also, before giving the trading company to him, take away all the valuable medicinal ingredients. Don't leave a single one for him. Yi Jingqian was dumbfounded. He originally thought that his wife was bad enough, but he didn't expect her to be this bad. When that time came, that bastard Yi Jingqian would definitely be in the mood to cry after receiving an empty shell of a business. Brother Yi, Jun Fengling raised her eyebrows and smiled faintly. In the past, I didn't care about your identity in the Yi family, but now that we have a child, I must give the child a bright future, so I want you to go back and take back what belongs to you. Then, Jun Fengling paused and narrowed her eyes. If Yi Jingqian knew we had a child, he wouldn't let us off so easily. We can only strike first. If you don't want to be the patriarch of the Yi family, wait until you get the power, then transfer it to someone else. I will never allow my child to be in danger. This was the reason why she wanted to go back and seize power. Anyone could be the head of the Yi family, but not Yi Jingqian. Otherwise, with his sinister character, he would definitely make sure that their family would never have a day of peace. All right. Yi Jingqian nodded slightly. I'll listen to you. For the sake of our child, I'll take back the Yi family's power. Jun Fengling smiled, her hand caressing her stomach, her face glowing brightly. That was the radiance of motherhood. Looking at the blissful smile on Jun Fengling's face, Yun Luofeng secretly made up her mind. No matter what, she would help Yi Jingqian and his wife resolve this potential trouble. No one knew when Yi Qi had appeared outside the hall, but she had heard everything Yi Jingqian and his wife had said. When she remembered that the spirit-gathering elixir was taken out by Yun Luofeng, her face flushed with shame. No wonder Big Brother was unwilling to take out the spirit-gathering elixir that day. It was all because of Yun Luofeng. If it were him, he wouldn't give the medicinal liquid to someone who was going against him either. Yi Qi bit her lips tightly. Through these days of reflection, she had understood many problems. Just like what Yun Luofeng had said to her. In this life, the people who would harm her would never be her family. Chapter 8:35. If she had listened to Big Brother back then, there wouldn't have been so many problems. She wouldn't have been deceived by one person for so long. At this thought, Yi Qi glanced at the happy family in the hall again. Then, she turned around and slowly left the courtyard. Yun Luofeng seemed to sense something. He turned around slowly and stared at Yi Qi's receding figure. Humans were strange. If they didn't suffer a setback, they would never reflect on themselves. If it wasn't for Shui Ro Air's incident, Yi Qi would still be a willful little girl. She didn't even know where she had gone wrong. At the Ye residence. In the depths of the forest, a tightly shut door slowly opened. Not long after, an old man in a green robe slowly walked out. When they saw him, everyone waiting outside the door knelt on the ground and said respectfully, "Congratulations on coming out of seclusion, master." The old man nodded slightly. His gaze swept across the room and stopped on the man in front of him. Did anything happen while I was in seclusion? Father, Yi Jingqian said timidly, ever since you went into seclusion, the elders in the family unanimously decided to banish Big Brother to Kargalik. Banishment meant that he would be expelled from the Ye family. Of course, Yi Jingqian wanted to push all the blame onto Yi Jingqian, but he knew that no matter how many lies he told, they would see through him. He might as well tell the truth. Fortunately, the old man only frowned and didn't blame Yi Jingqian. He only sighed helplessly. It's good that they left. At least it's better to stay in Kargalik than in the Ye family. If Jun Fengling hadn't been infertile, he wouldn't have passed the position of young master of the Ye family to Yi Jingqian. After all, as the head of the Ye family, how could he not have a son or daughter? But in reality, compared to his second son, he preferred the mature and steady Yi Jingqian. This was also the reason why Yi Jingqian hated Yi Jingqian. Yi Jingqian lowered his eyes. His previous submissive expression was gone, replaced by a flash of ruthlessness. Would leaving the Ye family give Big Brother a peaceful life? He would never let him off. As long as Big Brother was still alive, he could not be at ease as the young master of the Yi family. Father, Yi Jingqian lifted his head and continued, there's one more thing I need to report to you. Wen is currently on good terms with the princess of the royal family, and His Majesty has also agreed to this marriage. Once you come out of seclusion, they will arrange a date for the marriage. The princess of the imperial family, Jiang Mengyao, was the #1 beauty in the imperial city. Her beauty was unparalleled, her talent was extraordinary, and even her medical skills were outstanding. It was no wonder that Yi Jingqian was so proud to have such a perfect daughter-in-law. Oh! Sure enough, after hearing this, the old man's heart was moved. Not bad, this is very good. Obtaining the favor of the royal family is more important to the development of our Yi clan. Yi Jingqian was delighted. As long as he was on the same boat as the royal family, no matter how strong Yi Jingqian was, he wouldn't be able to seize power from him. Xianu, did anyone go to the back of the mountain while I was in seclusion? The old man frowned slightly and asked in a calm manner. Yi Jingqian said respectfully, Father, don't worry. The back mountain is the Yi family's forbidden area. No one has the guts to go there. Is that so? Then I'd like to go to the back mountain to take a look. The old man felt a little uneasy, so after saying this, he walked to the back mountain without any hesitation. Chapter 8:36. However, before he could approach the back mountain, he realized that the aura that had been lingering around the back mountain all year round had disappeared. Instantly, his expression changed and he slapped the back of Yi Jingxuan's head. How dare you lie to me? Even now, you still dare to say that no one has entered the back mountain? Yi Jingxian was stunned by the slap and stared blankly at the old man. Father, I really don't know what happened. Besides, isn't the back mountain a forbidden area? Who would have the guts to enter? The old man raised his hand angrily again, but in the end, he put it down helplessly. His elderly face was filled with anger. Do you know why the back mountain is called a forbidden area? Yi Jingxian shook his head. The Yi family's back mountain was where the Yi family's secret was. Even as the young master of the Yi family, he did not know much about the back mountain. The reason why the back mountain is called a forbidden area is because there is a person living there. You shouldn't call her a person. According to my father, your grandfather, there is a very powerful fox living in the back mountain. Fox? Yi Jingxian was completely dumbfounded. How could he not know that the Yi family had such a powerful spiritual beast? The old man took a deep breath and continued, that fox is the master of the Yi family's ancestor. Furthermore, the Yi family has a rule that all the Yi family's descendants must respect this fox and obey her orders. I've never seen this fox, but I can sense the powerful aura in the back mountain. Now that the back mountain is peaceful, do you still dare to say that the fox is still there? Yi Jingxian rubbed the back of his head. Did she leave on her own? That fox would never leave the back mountain so casually. Someone must have come and taken her away. The old man said resentfully. When I was in seclusion, I told you to look after the back mountain. What have you been doing all these years? You didn't even know that such a big thing had happened. Yi Jingxian felt very sullen. You can sense the aura in the back mountain, but I don't know. Furthermore, I really didn't see anyone come and take the fox away. Send someone to look for her immediately. Search to the ends of the earth and find her. The old man's eyes darkened as he ordered sternly. Yi Jingxian hesitated for a moment. Father, you've never seen that fox. How can I find her? I don't care that much. You didn't look after her well, so you will be responsible for this matter. As for that fox, I can give you a piece of information. She is a female fox and only has 8 tails. Of course, this information was passed down from his ancestors, and he only knew these 2 points. Father, it's like looking for a needle in a haystack for me. Yi Jingxian sighed and said helplessly. The old man glanced at him coldly. These 2 pieces of information are enough. Also, after you find her, you cannot be rude to her. You must treat her with respect. If she is unwilling to come back, send someone to protect her. Yi Jingxian really couldn't understand his father's actions. From his point of view, wouldn't it be fine if he could just find the fox and capture her? The old man seemed to have seen through Yi Jingxian's thoughts. He sighed and said, the purpose of our Yi family's existence is to protect this fox. In other words, we are the fox's servants. Have you ever seen a servant use force against their master? Yi Jingxian stood rooted to the ground in shock. This piece of information was far beyond his understanding. The Yi family had existed for so many years just to protect a spiritual beast? The Yi family that he had always been so proud of was actually the spiritual beast's servant? Chapter 837. The old man smiled bitterly as he looked at Yi Jingxian's devastated expression. Wasn't he the same when his father told him about this back then? However, he couldn't go against the clan's rules. He could only accept this fact. Father, I understand. Yi Jingxian came back to his senses and said, I'll send someone to look for that fox. The old man nodded in satisfaction. I didn't manage to break through during my closed-door cultivation this time. I'll have to continue in a few days. Xian, although you and Chen don't share the same mother, you're still brothers. I hope that you two will respect and love each other. Do you understand? Yi Jingxian's expression suddenly changed. He smiled ingratiatingly and said, Father, don't worry. I've always respected Big Brother. Why would I have a conflict with him? I'm the kind of person who would give up even a piece of cake to Big Brother. If possible, I'd like to give him the position of young master of the Yi family. Unfortunately, Big Brother doesn't have a son or daughter. The elders in the family don't approve of my actions at all. It seemed that this old man had guessed what he had been doing during this period of time. That was why he had specially warned him. However, he had no choice. In order to become the head of the Yi family, he had to coax this old man. The old man glanced at Yi Jingxian. If you really think that way, I'm relieved. I'll choose a good day for Princess Mengyao and Wen later. After this, I'll continue my closed-door cultivation. I won't come out until I break through this time. His father. Yi Jingxian lowered his head and the corners of his lips curled into a cold smile. As long as this old man went into closed-door cultivation, the entire Yi family would be his again. Although there were some disagreements among the elders of the Yi family, it didn't matter. In the end, everything was still up to him. Kargalik. Inside the Yi residence. After Jun Fengling had given some simple instructions, he sent people to pack their luggage. Soon, the servants of the Yi residence had prepared their luggage. Even the horses that the Yi residence had reared were brought over. Of course, Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao rode on the same horse. Yi Jingchen and his wife also rode on the same horse. Only Yi Shima and Yi Qi traveled alone. Looking at the couples, Yi Shima was a little sad. In the past, I was fed dog food by my adoptive parents every day. Now, I have a younger brother and sister-in-law. It seems that it's time for me to consider my marriage. Although Yi Shima had a lot of women around him, he only maintained a friendly relationship with those women and had no intention of taking things further. The way he saw it, the life he wanted was for his adoptive parents to be so loving. Before he found the person he loved, he would rather remain single. Yi Qi's gaze followed Yi Shima's. After hearing what he said, she felt a pang in her heart and lowered her eyes. She understood that her big brother would never choose her in this lifetime. In this way, she did not know how to face her sister-in-law in the future. Fortunately, her big brother had been single all these years, so she had never thought about this. Now that she thought about her future life, her heart clenched fiercely. Even the hand that held the horsewhip involuntarily tightened. Everything is ready. Let's go. Jun Fengling hugged Yi Jingxian's waist tightly and leaned her head on his back. A determined look flashed across her eyes. This time, I won't give in no matter what. Whether it was for the unborn child in her belly or for Yun Xiao and Yun Luofeng. She would never let anyone bully her. Chapter 8:38. Heavenly Cloud Nation. Outside the city gate, 2 guards stood motionless on the city wall, while the other one was checking the seals of the people who came and went. This seal represented the identity of the people in Heavenly Cloud Nation, so as to prevent enemies from sneaking in. Yi Jingchen pulled the reins of the horse and stopped at the city gate. The guards obviously knew Yi Jingchen, so they were stunned when they saw him appear. Young Master Yi, the young master of the Yi family has ordered that without his permission, young Master Yi is not allowed to enter the city. The Yi family was the #1 family in Heavenly Cloud Nation, so Yi Jingxuan's words naturally had an effect on the soldiers guarding the city. Therefore, without Yi Jingxuan's permission, they really did not dare to let Yi Jingchen enter the city. Yi Jingchen's eyebrows gradually sank, and he said coldly, "I am a member of the Yi family, you refused to let me in, did you ask for the opinion of the Yi family's master?" The guard sneered, "Young Master Yi, who in the entire Heavenly Cloud Nation does not know that you have been expelled from the Yi family? Therefore, you are no longer a member of the Yi family, so of course we have the right to refuse you entry." Yi Jingchen slightly narrowed his eyes and sneered, "This is only the decision of the Yi family's elders, not my father's order. As long as he does not expel me from the Yi family, I am still a member of the Yi family." The guard's face was obviously not very good, and just as he was about to ridicule Yi Jingxian, the sound of horse hooves came from a distance, coming from the road not far away. Suddenly, everyone's eyes looked in the direction of the sound. The horse's hooves flew, and dust filled the sky. On the horse, a beautiful woman with a whip was riding. Her beauty was not the kind of soft beauty, but the kind of elegant style of a general. She was wearing a purple dress, and when she reached the city gate, she hurriedly pulled the reins and stopped. At the same time, the guards behind the woman also stopped in their tracks. They were like empty tie, protecting the woman from behind. After seeing the woman in the purple dress, Yi Jingchen's breath suddenly tightened, and he tightly held the reins in his hands. The #1 beauty of Heavenly Cloud Nation, Jiang Mengyao. She was also the #1 genius of the entire imperial city, the goal of all the young talents. But now, the #1 beauty had chosen Yi Tianwen of the Yi family, which became something that Yi Jingxian could brag about. "Yi Jingchen, I didn't think you would dare to come back to the imperial city." Jiang Mingyao's lips curved into a smile as she stared coldly at Yi Jingchen and his wife. Back then, you gave up on my imperial aunt and chose to be with this woman. Have you ever regretted it? In the face of Jiang Mingyao's question, Yi Jingchen only sneered, his voice firm. To me, June is the wife that I will spend the rest of my life with. No one else can be compared to her? So what if he was the son-in-law of the heavenly cloud nation? He did not care for this position. In this life, the only person who could move his heart was June. That was all. Good, I hope you still have the courage to say such words in the future. Jiang Mingyao smiled coldly and turned to the guards. Since they're back in the imperial city, let them in. I want to see what kind of storm they can cause in the imperial city. Hiya. After saying this, Jiang Mingyao waved the whip in her hand. Before she left, she threw out a sentence of disdain. Yi Jingchen, Jun Fengling, you should thank me. Without me, you wouldn't even have the right to enter the imperial city. Chapter 839. Jiang Mingyao did not even look at Yun Luofeng and the rest. It was as if they were not worthy of her attention. Yi Jingchen clenched his fists tightly. It was the first time he felt so powerless. Brother Yi, Jun Fengling raised her eyebrows. It's just a few words. How many times have I been mocked over the years? I don't care about what the world thinks. I'm not afraid as long as I can be with you. Her words made Yi Jingchen's heart ache even more. He made up his mind. No matter what, he had to take back the power that belonged to him. He would not let anyone bully his wife. Pfft. Yi Qi spat on the ground. She was so angry that her pretty face was red. A bunch of snobs. Jiang Mingyao and Yi Tianwen are really a perfect match. In the past, Yi Shima would have reprimanded Yi Qi. However, he did not say anything today. It was obvious that what Yi Qi said was what he wanted to say too. Let's go. Yi Shima calmed himself down. His eyes were cold. When I return to the Yi family, I will make those who bullied us pay the price. With Jiang Mingyao's words, the guards did not stop Yi Jingchen and let him pass through the gates smoothly, the Yi family. In the hall, Yi Jingxian slammed the table and stood up. The veins on his forehead were throbbing. That bastard Yi Jingchen is back at the Yi family? Not only did he not come when I sent someone to invite him, he even injured my people. Now he's back. What does he want? The more Yi Jingxian thought about it, the angrier he got. If he had not been so worried, he would have sent someone to get rid of Yi Jingchen. Father! Yi Tianwen glanced at Yi Jingxian. A fierce look flashed across his handsome face. I heard that Jun Fengling's long-lost son came back with them? Yi Jingxian snorted. He's just a bastard. Yi Jingxian is really a green-haired tortoise. He married a slut and brought up a bastard. Such a person doesn't deserve to be a disciple of the Yi family. What a disgrace. On this mainland, men could have concubines and 2 wives, but women could not. As a woman, she had to be faithful to one man. Even if she separated, she could only live a bitter and lonely life. I really don't know what eldest uncle is thinking. Back then, the imperial princess wanted to marry him, but not only did he reject her, he even married a whore. You don't even want the chance to be the emperor's son-in-law? Are you stupid? Yi Tianwen could not understand why he would give up such a good opportunity. Wouldn't he be benefiting an outsider? Moreover, the eldest princess hadn't married for so many years, wasn't she waiting for him? Yi Jingxian laughed mockingly. If he really became the emperor's son-in-law, I wouldn't have anything to do with it today. Yi Jingxian was too stupid. He could have been the emperor's son-in-law, but he insisted on messing around. Father, I heard that the bastard already has a fiancée? His fiancée is a stunning beauty, even more so than Princess Mengyao. Yi Tianwen's brows slightly sunk. He was just a bastard, yet a beauty threw herself into his arms. Was that beauty blind? So what if she's beautiful? Yi Jingxian was very unhappy with Yi Tianwen's words. He frowned. Even if she's beautiful, her status and talent are inferior to Princess Mengyao. You can't be interested in this kind of woman. You are the only child of our Yi family. Only Princess Mengyao is worthy of you. Chapter 840. Yi Tianwen waved his fan and raised it slightly. Father, don't worry. I'm not a lustful person. I know what I want. I'm just amazed that there are people who like such a useless bastard. After all, I've heard that the bastard was chased out of the family because he couldn't cultivate. How could a bastard who couldn't cultivate be worthy of a beauty? Only a woman with a rough appearance could match him. Yi Jingxian nodded in satisfaction. The Yi family scouts have reported that Princess Meng Yao has returned. Go find her later. Also, I heard that the Empress is sick. Princess Meng Yao left the imperial city to find herbs for the Empress' illness. Our Yi family has 1,000-year blood ginseng. Take it to Princess Meng Yao. His father. Yi Tianwen bowed his head and replied respectfully. Not long after Yi Tianwen left, there was a commotion outside the door. Yi Jingxian's low voice could be heard faintly. Yi Jingshuan's face darkened. The smile on his lips was terrifying. Without any hesitation, he walked out of the hall. In the courtyard, Yi Jingxian's eyes were filled with anger. He stared coldly at the man who had walked out of the hall and said coldly, Yi Jingxian, what do you mean by this? Are you trying to shut me out? Don't forget, I'm your big brother. A few years ago, he had swallowed his anger and left the Yi family in order to seek peace. This time, he would not give up what belonged to him so easily. What belonged to him, he would take it back. Yi Jingxian smiled sinisterly. Big brother, are you misunderstanding me? I didn't reject you at the door. Don't forget, a few years ago, you said that you would never step into the Yi family ever again. The guards of the Yi family are only fulfilling your promise. What he meant was that the one shutting Yi Jingxian out was not him, but Yi Jingxian himself. Yi Jingxian said coldly, don't you know the reason why I left the Yi family? If you hadn't bullied June, I wouldn't have left. Big brother, if you and sister-in-law want to come back, of course I have no problem, but... Yi Jingxian glanced at Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao, who were standing beside Jun Fengling, and his lips curled into a sinister smile. These two people are not from the Yi family, they have no right to enter the Yi family. Yun Luofeng's lips curved into a faint smile. Her smile was lazy and evil, but her black eyes were clear. Yi Jingxian is my father-in-law and Jun Fengling is my mother-in-law. Why can't Yun Xiao and I enter the Yi family? Hee, Yi Jingxian laughed coldly. Who doesn't know that this bastard is Jun Fengling's child? Our Yi clan will not accept this bastard. You should scram. Fire. Yun Luofeng's eyes darkened as he shouted. In an instant, a little girl dressed in red appeared out of nowhere. Her figure was as fast as lightning, and in an instant, she was in front of Yi Jingxian. With a loud smack, she slapped him hard across the face. Yi Jingxian was stunned. This little girl was too fast, so fast that he couldn't react in time. When he finally regained his senses, his eyes were filled with rage. How dare you? How dare you lay a hand on me? Yi Jingxian, as the young master of the Yi family, I order you to take these two girls down. Yi Jingxian smiled coldly and didn't move an inch. Good, very good. A cold light flashed in Yi Jingshuan's eyes as he ordered sternly, Men, take down these traitors of the Yi family. Chapter 841. Yun Luofeng had merely allowed fire to slap him, but in his mouth, it had become Yi Jingxian's betrayal of the Yi family. The guards looked at each other in dismay, but no one dared to make a move. Even if Yi Jingxian had been expelled from the Yi family, he was still the young master of the Yi family. How could they dare to offend him? Make a move on him? Seeing that the guards were standing still, Yi Jingxian became even more furious. At this moment, Yun Luofeng's languid voice rang out. So what if I hit you? She raised the corner of her lips. You slandered the son of the Yi family. Don't you deserve to be hit? Yi Jingxian was stunned. What do you mean by that? What I mean is very simple. Yun Xiao is Yi Jingxian's biological son. Boom. Like a bolt from the blue, Yi Jingxian was stunned. Yi Jingxian and Jun Fengling were also stunned. No one knew better than them who Yun Xiao's father was. After all, Jun Fengling had only met Yi Jingxian after leaving the Xiao family. How could Yun Xiao be his son? Jun Fengling was a little anxious. He kept giving Yun Luofeng looks, trying to stop her from speaking. From beginning to end, only Yun Xiao was the calmest. To him, no matter what Yun Luofeng wanted to do, she had her reasons. All he could do was believe her unconditionally. Impossible, this is impossible. Yi Jingxian took 2 steps back. How could this bastard be my brother's son? He clearly came from the Roaring Dragon continent. Yun Luofeng slowly took 2 steps closer to Yi Jingxian. How do you know that Yun Xiao wasn't born from father and mother in the Roaring Dragon continent? Moreover, it's very simple to verify what I said. A drop of blood is enough. Yi Jingxuan's eyes flashed fiercely. He really didn't expect his brother to have a son outside. Could it be that he was afraid that he would hurt their son, so he hid it for so many years? Obviously, Yi Jingxian already believed Yun Luofeng's words. After all, she had even said a drop of blood to identify the kinship. How could it be false? Jun Fengling's expression became even more anxious. Once the blood test was done, it would be enough to prove that Yun Xiao wasn't brother Ye's son. At that time, it would be very difficult to clean up the mess. Just as her heart was filled with anxiety, a voice suddenly sounded in her mind, exploding with a loud bang. Don't worry, I will take back what belongs to you. Jun Fengling raised her head in surprise. At that moment, she met a pair of eyes that seemed to be smiling. That pair of eyes was so bright that it miraculously calmed her anxious heart down. Soul transmission. She could actually use soul transmission. Just how many things did this daughter-in-law of hers not know? I'll go discuss with the elders and choose a date to carry out the blood test. Yi Jingxian glanced coldly at Yun Luofeng. If it turns out that this bastard isn't my eldest brother's son, I'll show you. With that, Yi Jingxian waved his hand and led a group of guards out of the courtyard, hurrying in the direction of the Elder Council. Only Yun Luofeng and the others were left in the courtyard. However, she was still a bit worried, so she set up a barrier around the courtyard, making it impossible for others to hear what was going on inside. Father, Mother, I know you have many things to ask me. You can ask them now. Yun Luofeng shrugged. Besides, no one will hear what you ask here. Yi Jingxian and Jun Fengling looked at each other and laughed bitterly. Feng, although you've made us stay in the Yi family, what about the blood test? Chapter 842. Yun Luofeng smiled. Don't forget, I'm a doctor. If I want your blood to fuse, they'll definitely be able to fuse. A blood test won't be a problem. Jun Fengling was silent for a moment, then asked, Feng, are you doing this to protect my unborn child? This girl was smart. How could she not guess that he wanted to reveal the news of her pregnancy? Yi Jingxian and his gang would not let her off easily. Yes. Yun Luofeng did not deny it. Feng, you don't have to do this. Jun Fengling laughed bitterly. You and Xiao are very important to me. How can I let you take the risk? How can I be at ease if you do this? Yun Luofeng's fingers gently brushed Jun Fengling's hair. The corners of his lips curled into a smile. The Yi family will be a gift from me to my unborn brother and sister. Brother and sister? Yi Jingxian and Jun Fengling looked at each other and saw joy in each other's eyes. Feng, are you saying that your mother is pregnant with a boy and a girl? Yi Jingxian was so excited that he almost hugged Jun Fengling and kissed her. That's right. Yun Luofeng curled his lips. Mother, you're pregnant, so you must keep your body and mind happy. You don't have to worry about me and Yun Xiao. As long as that Holy Spirit from the Yi family doesn't make a move, we won't be in any danger. In fact, Yun Luofeng did not know what realm Yun Xiao's current strength was, nor was he sure if he could stand against that Holy Spirit. However, other than that Holy Spirit, the rest of the Yi family was no match for Yun Xiao. Although Jun Fengling's strength was not bad, she was pregnant now, so her strength would definitely be slightly weakened. If news of her pregnancy were to spread now, those people would definitely attack her while she was unprepared. If that was the case, she might as well let them attract the hatred. Jun Fengling sighed. Having such a daughter-in-law in this life, what regrets did she have? Jun, take good care of your pregnancy. I'll protect Xiao and Feng. A cold glint flashed across Yi Jingxian's eyes. If anyone dares to hurt them, I'll protect them even if it means falling out with the Yi family. Jun Fengling raised her eyebrows lightly and said with a faint smile, I haven't returned to the Yi family for many years. This time, I'll definitely be looked down upon by those people again. However, I won't swallow my anger like before. This time, whoever dares to bully or humiliate me, I will return it 100-fold. At that moment, a silhouette rushed over. When Yun Luofeng saw the silhouette, he removed the barrier and walked to Jun Fengling's side. "Young master," the servant hurriedly reported, "the elders want you to go over." Yi Jingxian frowned. "All right, I'll be right there." After saying that, he turned to face Jun Fengling with a gentle gaze. I'll be right back. If anyone from the Yi family bullies you, don't hold back. Fight them back. Remember, no matter what, I'll be on your side." Jun Fengling nodded slightly. She instinctively wanted to touch her stomach, but she quickly put her hand down when she remembered that there were people from the Yi family around. "All right, I'll wait for you." Yi Jingxian caressed her head gently and turned around. "Lead the way." "Young master, please follow me." The servant gestured for him to follow and led the way. Even though the servant's words were very polite, the disdain between his eyebrows was still revealed. Chapter 843. In the elders' room. All the elders sat around a long table. Sitting at the head of the table was Yi Xiang, the most talented person in the family. Even Yi Jingxian, as the future head of the Yi family, had to listen to his advice sometimes. As the door opened, everyone in the room looked out in unison. When they saw the man who had appeared outside, all the elders' eyes were filled with complicated emotions. "Come in," Elder Yi Xiang said in a low voice. Yi Jingxian entered slowly under the elder's gaze. His steps were steady, his breathing steady, and he wasn't in a hurry. Just this alone made him incomparable to Yi Jingxian. "You're back?" Yi Xiang asked indifferently as he watched Yi Jingxian walk into the elder's office. "Yes, I'm back." "He's back. And this time, he wouldn't back down." "I heard that you have a son outside?" Yi Xiang asked directly, without a word of nonsense. Yi Jingxian smiled. "That's right, he's my son. It's my fault for letting him wander outside all these years. He's already returned to the Yi family with me. If you don't believe me, you can do a blood test. I have no objections." "Since that's the case, let's choose a date for the blood test. Let's do it 3 days from now. Plus, today's matter is too important. I'll inform the head of the family who's in seclusion." Yi Xiang said indifferently. Compared to Yi Jingxian, he was more optimistic about Yi Jingxian. Unfortunately, Yi Jingxian was too powerful, but he didn't have any children, so he couldn't inherit the Yi family. Although he had a son now, he heard that his son was a good-for-nothing. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been expelled from the Shao family where Jun Fengling lived. What a pity! Yi Xiang felt that it was a pity. If his son had been so talented, he would have made Yi Jingxian the young master of the Yi family no matter what. "Elders," Yi Jingshuan's eyes flickered. He stood up and chuckled. "Now that my brother is back, there's no one to manage the business in Kargalik. Why don't I send someone over?" Yi Xiang frowned. "Kargalik belongs to your brother. It's not appropriate for you to do this." "Elders," Yi Jingxian said with a fake smile. "Kargalik is such a remote place. How can someone as noble as my brother stay there? I'll send someone to replace Big Brother." Yi Jingxian glanced at Yi Jingxian mockingly. It seemed that it was just as Fenger had said. His younger brother wouldn't give up on the business. Not only that, before he left, he had already cleared out all the medicinal ingredients in the business and brought back a few of his trusted aides. What was left for him was just an empty shell. "Second young master, don't forget that you were the one who suggested transferring eldest young master to Kargalik. Why didn't you think that Kargalik was a remote place?" Among the elders present, an elder dressed in green couldn't stand it anymore and retorted, "Now, young master has developed Kargalik to such a prosperous state and you want to take it back." Yi Jingxian looked displeased as he glanced at the green-robed elder who had spoken. "I just want him to go there and reflect on himself. Maybe he will realize his mistake and leave sister-in-law. Who knew that he would be so stubborn? Now I also feel sorry for him, so I let him come back to Yi family." Hearing this, the other elders who were usually in cahoots with Yi Jingxian also spoke up. "Second young master is right. No matter what he does, it's for the sake of eldest young master. On the contrary, eldest young master bites Lu Dongbin like a dog and doesn't know what's good for him. He's been bewitched by a vixen and doesn't hesitate to go against his own brother. Chapter 844. Who knows if that bastard is really eldest young master's son? Maybe that vixen is deceiving eldest young master. To think that second young master still calls her sister-in-law. In my opinion, she's not worthy of entering the family. Eldest young master, you should really reflect on yourself. Where else can you find a good brother like second young master? Second young master has always been considerate of you and even offered to return the position of young master to you several times. But what did you do? You're too heartless. The elders spoke one after another, causing Yi Jingxian to clench his fists tightly. First, since I'm the young master of the Yi family, you must treat me with respect. June is my wife. Who allowed you to be so rude? Yi Jingxian's eyes were cold, no longer as gentle as before. Second, whether Xiao is my son or not will be revealed in 3 days. Are you afraid of something by slandering him like this? The elders who had ridiculed Yi Jingxian were stunned. They had initially thought that Yi Jingxian was destined to be the young master, so they had done many things to hurt Yi Jingxian all these years with him. Now that Yi Jingxian had a son, they were indeed afraid. It was precisely because of this fear that they spoke without thinking. You want Kargalik's business? Yi Jingxian turned to Yi Jingxian and said coldly, I can give it to you, but only if you exchange it with 3,000-year-old herbs. Moreover, these herbs are not allowed to be taken from the Yi family. Yi Jingxian looked up blankly. How did this guy know that he was secretly hiding 3,000-year-old herbs? He had painstakingly obtained these herbs, and there were only 3 of them in total. One must know that once a herb was 500 years old, it would be priceless. Big brother, I'm doing this for you, yet you're asking for an exorbitant price, asking for 3,000-year-old herbs in one go. Yi Jingxian sneered. It's fine if you don't give it to me, but don't even think about getting it from the Yi family's business. Yi Jingxian shrugged nonchalantly. Yi Jingshuan's face darkened. He knew that elder Yi Xiang had always felt guilty for kicking Yi Jingxian out of the Yi family. If he did not do as Yi Jingxian wished, he would not be able to get the business from him. Yi Jingxian gritted his teeth and said, All right, I'll give it to you. Once he obtained the spirit-gathering elixir and nurtured the Yi family's power, no one would dare to defy his position as the Yi family's young master. I'll let you be happy for now. There will be plenty of opportunities for you to cry in the future. Is there anything else? If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave first. My wife and son are waiting for me. Yi Jingxian glanced coldly at the elders. He only smiled at the green-robed elder who had spoken up for him earlier. You can leave first. Yi Xiang waved his hand. In addition, because we can't be sure that the child is your son, in order to avoid becoming a laughingstock in the end, no one can tell anyone about this before the blood test. For a family like the Yi clan, they placed a lot of emphasis on bloodlines. If the blood test failed, it would definitely become a laughingstock. They couldn't afford to lose face like this. Yi Jingxian smiled mockingly, turned around and walked out of the room without a word. After leaving the elder's room, his cold expression melted and Jun Fengling's figure appeared in his mind. The corners of his lips curled into a smile as he quickly walked towards the courtyard. In this life, only Jun Fengling was his only source of warmth. Even if he had to betray the world, he would never betray her. Chapter 845. From afar, Yi Jingxian could see a few people standing in the courtyard. His expression was filled with gentleness as he quickly walked up to them. Jun, you've been waiting for a long time, haven't you? I'll get someone to clean up our previous room later. As for Feng and Xiao, arrange them next to us so that I can protect them. All right. Jun Fengling raised her eyebrows and smiled. She turned to look at Yun Luofeng and the others. If you're tired, go back to your rooms and rest. If you're not tired, let Mo and Chi-Chi take you around the imperial city. Hearing this, Yi Shima laughed heartily. Godfather, godmother, don't worry. Leave second brother and sister-in-law to me. Jun Fengling was naturally at ease with Yi Shima. With them bringing Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao around the imperial city, there would basically be no problems. Brother Yi, I'm tired. Let's go back and rest. Jun Fengling rubbed her forehead. Ever since she became pregnant, She had become more sleepy and lazy in everything she did. Yi Jingchen smiled and rubbed Jun Fengling's waist. After giving Yi Shima a few more instructions, he walked towards the backyard. Yi Shima retracted his gaze and laughed. Let's go. Let me show you around and familiarize you with the imperial city. Yun Luofeng nodded lightly and did not refuse. All right. As for Yun Xiao, as long as Yun Luofeng nodded, he would not have any objections. Yi Qi bit her lips as she watched them leave. Her eyes were filled with loneliness. Even though she wanted to follow them, she could not bring herself to do so in the end. The royal restaurant was the most luxurious restaurant in the imperial city. The dishes inside were also extremely famous. Hence, it had become a gathering place for countless luxurious people in the imperial city. However, this restaurant required reservations. Otherwise, they would not be able to enter. Therefore, Yi Shima entered the restaurant in advance to discuss with the owner of the restaurant if he could give them a seat. At this moment, Yun Luofeng stepped into the restaurant not long after Yi Shima left. However, as Fire was only focused on talking to Yun Luofeng, he did not notice the figure walking out of the restaurant in front of him and accidentally bumped into him. Originally, this collision would not have been a hindrance, but after colliding with the fire, the old man seemed to be unable to withstand the heavy blow and fell to the ground, losing consciousness. Fire was stunned. She rubbed her head and said, "What is it? Is this old man trying to blackmail us?" Gu Shijio had heard of the word porcelain racketeering from Little Mo. It was said that there were many people who used porcelain racketeering in the world that Little Mo had been to. In an instant, everyone in the restaurant turned to look at the people who had appeared at the door. "How dare you!" The two guards behind the old man reacted. They anxiously pulled out their swords and pointed at Fire, saying expressionlessly, "I suspect that you want to harm our lord. So, all of you, come with me immediately." Fire curled his lips. "You really want to scam me? You're already so old, don't you have any shame? Old man, stop pretending to be asleep, hurry up and wake up." She placed her hands on her hips and looked down at the unconscious old man. Her tone was filled with disdain. "Impudent." The guard's expression changed as he shouted harshly. He didn't know what it meant to be a scam, but it couldn't be anything good. At this moment, the people in the restaurant were also discussing, looking at Fire with eyes full of disapproval. Chapter 846. Little girl, it's your fault that you knocked this old man unconscious. Now that you're not apologizing, you're even spouting nonsense. Is this your upbringing? Fire's small face flushed red with anger. Just as she was about to get angry, Yun Luofeng suddenly extended his hand and grabbed her, the corner of his mouth curling up into a lazy smile. "Do you believe that I can wake him up immediately?" The guard coldly snorted. Even though he didn't say a word, he could see the disbelief in his eyes. "Fire, get out of the way." After Yun Luofeng finished speaking, he walked towards the old man who had fallen to the ground. "Halt!" The two guards' faces changed. Just as they were about to attack Yun Luofeng, the previously silent and cold man suddenly made his move. Without any warning, a powerful force entered their bodies, causing them to be unable to resist. They were sent flying by the attack and vomited 3 liters of blood. They could only watch as Yun Luofeng walked towards the old man. When the girl arrived in front of the old man, 3 silver needles suddenly appeared in her hand. She quickly and accurately inserted them into the acupuncture points on the top of the old man's head. Then, as her fingers moved, traces of spiritual power slowly surged into his body. Not long after, the unconscious old man opened his eyes. His eyes were filled with confusion. It was obvious that he did not know what had happened. "Sir." Seeing that the old man had woken up, the guard's face lit up, and he fiercely glared at Fire. "Just now, this girl ambushed you, causing you to be seriously injured, this subordinate. How dare you?" The old man finally came back to his senses. He slapped the guard and interrupted him. "Apologize to this lady." The guard was completely dumbfounded. He didn't know what had happened. The old man no longer looked at him. He stood up from the ground and respectfully cupped his fists towards Yun Luofeng. "Young lady, did you save this old man just now?" Yun Luofeng glanced at him from the corner of his eye. "I just want to prove that the matter of you fainting has nothing to do with my sister. Fire, let's go. The old man still wanted to say something, but Yun Luofeng did not give him the chance. After a moment, he disappeared in front of his eyes. He took a deep breath and said, "Investigate this girl's identity for me." "Sir." The two guards cupped their fists and replied respectfully. Imperial Palace. In the Imperial study, a figure in bright yellow was reading through memorials. Perhaps it was because he had been too tired for the past few days. At this moment, the man's face was a little tired, and his complexion was a little sallow. "Your Majesty." A eunuch hurried over and reported, "Lord Xiantian is here." The man was startled and said, "Let him in." "Yes, Your Majesty." After the eunuch finished speaking, he hurriedly retreated. After a while, an old man in a flaxen robe walked in from outside the imperial study. If Yun Luofeng was here, he would definitely be able to recognize this Lord Profound Heaven as the old man who had tried to blackmail him at the restaurant. "Xiandan, have you found a way to treat the Empress?" The man's voice sounded a little tired as he asked calmly. Ever since the Empress married His Majesty, they had been deeply in love. Unfortunately, as an emperor, His Majesty had too many helplessness. It was impossible for him to have 3 palaces and 6 courtyards. For the sake of His Majesty, the Empress had tolerated other women. Perhaps out of guilt towards the Empress, the Emperor had always treated her very well. However, the road to happiness was strewn with setbacks. For some unknown reason, the Empress and the First Lady of the Yi family, Jun Fengling, were unable to conceive. As the ruler of a country, His Majesty was under great pressure because of this. Chapter 847. What caused His Majesty to break down even more was the fact that the Empress had contracted a terminal illness not too long ago and her days were numbered. To save the Empress's life, he had issued an order. Regardless of whether it was a prince or a princess, as long as they could save the Empress, they would be given the title of Crown Prince. His Majesty's infatuation with the Empress was clear. "Your Majesty, you know that I am suffering from an old illness. If it is not cured, I will faint at any time and there is no way to treat it. There is no way to wake me up either." In the past, he would always keep track of the time and would not leave the house when he was in a coma. Hence, not many people knew about his old illness. Who would have thought that it would suddenly act up today? And then? The man furrowed his brows and asked. Xiantian smiled. "Then, I met a woman. She only gave me a few acupuncture needles and I woke up. Hence, I believe that the woman's medical skills are extremely high and no one in the Imperial Hospital can compare to her. If I can invite her over, perhaps she can cure my old illness." Even the Empress's illness. The man rose to his feet when he heard this. His eyes were filled with excitement and his breathing quickened. "Where is that woman? We will send someone to invite her here immediately. We will invite her personally. As long as she can cure the Empress, we can ask for anything." "Your Majesty, I have already sent someone to investigate the woman's identity. I believe that we will have news very soon. However, I can see that the woman has a cold temperament and wealth may not be able to attract her. As such a powerful doctor, she must have no interest in wealth, but she should be interested in medicinal herbs, right? If she can cure the Empress, it doesn't matter if she has all the medicinal herbs in the imperial treasury." Xiantian was shocked and stared in astonishment at the man's excited face. He did not expect her to offer such a great temptation. "Xiantian, we have owed the Empress too much all these years. If we had not hurt her heart so often, we would not have caused her to be childless for so many years." The man laughed bitterly. "If we can cure the Empress, we can give up everything, even this country." "Your Majesty!" Xiantian was shocked. He never thought that His Majesty would go to such lengths for the Empress. "You don't need to persuade us. We have regretted it for so many years. What's the point of having so many concubines? The weight of those women in my heart cannot compare to the Empress. Especially with the Empress' serious illness this time, Zhen understands even more that Zhen cannot lose her." Xiantian lowered his head. "I respect Your Majesty's wishes and will do my best to find that lady. Leave." The man waved his hand and sat down tiredly again. "If there is any news of her, you must inform Zhen." Zhen will personally invite her to diagnose the Empress. Yes, Your Majesty. Xian Tian cupped his fists and retreated. As soon as he stepped out of the imperial study, he saw Jiang Mengyao walking towards him. In Tianyun Nation, doctors had a high status, especially Xian Tian, who was the head of the imperial physicians. He didn't need to salute anyone except the emperor. Therefore, when he saw Jiang Mengyao walking over, he only nodded in acknowledgement. Master Xian Tian, Jiang Mengyao stopped in her tracks and smiled. I have some questions about medicine that I don't understand. Can I ask you a few questions? Xian Tian frowned and said, I'm sorry, Sixth Princess, I still have some matters to attend to. I'm afraid I don't have the time to teach you. Jiang Mengyao was startled, but she quickly regained her senses. She smiled and said, It's all right. When Master has time, Mengyao will ask you a few questions. She then pushed open the door of the imperial study and walked in. Chapter 848. Sister-in-law, did something happen to you at the restaurant earlier? Yi Shima scratched the back of his head and asked in confusion as they walked along the busy street. Nothing. Yun Luofeng smiled. It's getting late. We should head back. Nothing happened? Then why did the people who were eating at the restaurant peek at you before we left? Sister-in-law, since you've come to the imperial city, I have to protect you as your brother. I can't let anyone bully you. Yi Shima patted his chest and said confidently. Yun Xiao could not stand Yi Shima acting like a hero in front of Yun Luofeng. He glanced at him coldly and said, She has my protection. She doesn't need you. Her words didn't affect Yi Shima, so Yun Xiao added, You won't be able to protect her with your abilities. Yi Shima was speechless. Yun Xiao had hit his sore spot. Although he thought that he was talented, he could not be compared to Yun Xiao. Yi Qi, you're just a dog adopted by the Yi family. How dare you bark at us? Have you forgotten that you're a dog? Suddenly, an arrogant voice was heard on the busy street, attracting Yun Luofeng's attention. Yi Qi was surrounded by a group of people not far away. Her pretty face was flushed and her eyes were filled with resentment. Tianlin, I wouldn't have scolded you if you hadn't bad-mouthed my adoptive mother. You're the one in the wrong. I'm not at fault. Yi Qi bit her lip. Besides, even if I'm an adopted dog, I'm still the dog of my adoptive parents. What does that have to do with you? Oh, what a protective dog. Tianlin laughed. Don't forget, all these years, your food, drink, and expenses have all been paid for by the Yi family. You'll do whatever I ask you to do. Now crawl between my legs. Otherwise, I'll make life miserable for both you and Yi Shima. Yi Qi clenched her fists angrily. In the end, she could not hold back her anger and punched Yi Tianlin in the face. 2 streaks of blood flowed from Yi Tianlin's nostrils. He wiped the blood from his nose and his face darkened. Damned girl, how dare you attack this young master? Do you think your adoptive parents can protect you? Don't forget, the imperial princess is this young master's future sister-in-law. Yi Qi regretted it as soon as she punched Yi Tianlin. She couldn't help stepping back, but she was still unwilling to be outdone by Yi Tianlin. She said firmly, What's so great about a royal princess? My sister-in-law is much better than her. Hee, Yi Tianlin sneered. Your sister-in-law? Are you talking about the wife of that bastard that Jun Fengling brought back? How could she be compared to the imperial princess? What a joke! Was her medical skills better than the princess, or was her family background better? Let me tell you, Princess Menyao's master is a doctor who is second only to Master Xian Tian in Tianyun Nation. How do you think she can compare to Princess Mengyao? Of course, it was medical skills. In the beginning, when Yi Qi didn't know Yun Luofeng's identity, she had looked down on her just like everyone else. Furthermore, she had been used by Shui Roer, so she thought that Yun Luofeng was useless. But later, when he learned that she was Yun Luofeng, he never looked down on her again. Moreover, Yun Luofeng had cured her adoptive mother's infertility. How could Princess Mengyao compare to such powerful medical skills? However, Yi Qi knew that she couldn't let anyone else know about this, so she bit her lip and kept quiet. Chapter 849. Seeing Yi Qi backing away, Yi Tianlin became more and more pleased with himself. He raised his eyebrows and said, "Yi Chi, you must remember that you're just a dog in the Ye family. When your master feeds you, just wag your tail and beg for mercy. Don't even think about resisting." Yi Tianlin said. Yi Chi glared at Yi Tianlin fiercely. Who would have thought that her glare would completely enrage Yi Tianlin? "Damned girl, you still dare to be so arrogant. Men, give this girl a good beating." Yi Tianlin clenched his fists and ordered coldly with a gloomy expression on his handsome face. Not only had this girl dared to hit him, but she was also unrepentant. Today, he would teach her a lesson. "Yes, young Master Lin." In an instant, the group of guards behind Yi Tianlin rushed towards Yi Chi. One of the guards grabbed Yi Chi's arm tightly while another threw a punch at her. In an instant, half of Yi Chi's face swelled up like a pig's head. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she stubbornly refused to let them fall. She glared at Yi Tianlin with her pretty eyes full of grief and indignation. "Damned girl, who gave you permission to look at me like that?" Yi Tianlin walked up to Yi Chi with his head held high. He held her chin tightly with his fingers and said with a creepy smile, "What's the use of keeping a dog that dares to betray its master?" Yi Tianlin raised his hand and slapped Yi Chi's face fiercely again. Yi Chi was so frightened that she closed her eyes and her eyelashes trembled slightly. However, she did not feel any pain from the slap. Her eyelids trembled and she slowly opened her eyes. The man's back was facing Yi Chi. The hem of his clothes fluttered in the wind. His back was very thick, like a mountain, and it was very reassuring. In an instant, Yi Chi's heart skipped a beat. She stared at the man in front of her in a daze as an indescribable feeling surged into her heart. "Yi Tianlin." The corners of the man's lips curled into a cold smile. His handsome face was curled into a mocking smile. "It seems that you've forgotten how I chased after you and beat you up a few years ago. But now you want the old dream to come true?" A trace of panic flashed in Yi Tianlin's eyes, but he forced himself to calm down. He gritted his teeth and said, "Back then, my uncle had a very high position in the Yi family, so I didn't dare to make a move against you. But now, my father is the head of the Yi family. What right do you have to go against me? What goes around comes around." Yi Jingchen used to have the highest status in the Yi family, but he ended up marrying a hen that couldn't lay eggs. Moreover, for so many years, for a woman who couldn't even bear a child, he wasn't even willing to take a concubine. As a result, the elders of the Yi clan became increasingly disappointed with him and even transferred their power to their own father. Yi Shimo raised his eyebrows and sneered. "A few years ago, when I first came to the Yi family, I was able to beat you up so badly that you didn't dare to appear in front of me. A few years later, I can do the same. If you don't believe me, you can try." Yi Tianlin's expression changed. Facing Yi Chi, he would not be so panicked. After all, Yi Chi's talent was not very strong. However, he felt weak in front of Yi Shima. "Let's go." Yi Tianlin clenched his teeth and waved his hand. He turned around and was about to leave with the Yi family's guards. At that moment, a powerful spiritual power hit him from behind. Caught off guard, Yi Tianlin fell forward quickly with a bang and fell to the ground in a sorry state. Chapter 850. Who ambushed this young master? Yi Tianlin crawled up from the ground with great difficulty, his expression changing drastically as he roared. Just as he was looking for the assailant, a lazy voice with a flattering smile suddenly came from the front. "I didn't ambush you, I did it openly. You didn't feel my attack, which means you're too stupid." The street that was enveloped by the setting sun was calm and tranquil. The passers-by who were originally walking to and fro, after noticing the unforeseen event in this area, all turned their gazes towards the young girl who was standing against the wind. It was only at this moment that the crowd finally understood what it meant to be dressed in white, to be able to cause the downfall of a nation. They had thought that Princess Mengyao was peerless enough, but compared to this girl in white, she paled in comparison by more than a level. She was, without a doubt, the #1 beauty in the world. "Was it you who ambushed me just now?" Yi Tianlin recovered from his shock and asked with a dark expression. The girl's lips curled into a lazy smile, but it was permeated with a chilling aura. "I've already said that I didn't ambush you, I attacked you openly." Then, the girl turned to Yi Chi and asked, Tell me what he said to humiliate mother. Yi Qi was stunned. He said that godmother is a hen that can't lay eggs, and he also said that godmother is a coquettish slut who seduced godfather and made him wear a green hat. He even said that second brother is a bastard born from godmother and a wild man. Yun Luofeng slowly retracted his gaze from Yi Qi and looked at Yi Tianlin with an evil smile. How about this? If you insult my mother, I'll slap myself 10 times, and if I say 2 times, I'll slap myself 20 times. I've always been fair, and I think that my mother is at a disadvantage if I only let you slap yourself. There were already many passers-by on the street, and they were all dumbfounded when they heard Yun Luofeng's words. Someone only insulted Jun Fengling once, and he wanted him to slap himself? And he even said that Jun Fengling would be at a disadvantage if he did that? Tianlin was so angry that his handsome face turned red. You're too impudent. My father is the young master of the Yi clan, and my elder brother is the future son-in-law. If you dare to treat me like this, you will definitely have your 9 generations executed. Yun Luofeng narrowed his eyes, and a dangerous light flashed in them. Since you don't want to slap yourself, let me help you. Yi Tianlin was stunned. Before he could recover, he saw Yun Luofeng in front of him. Then, Yun Luofeng took out a few needles from who knows where and pierced them into his body. Immediately after, he felt his hand going out of control and fiercely slapping himself. But after this slap, half of Yi Tianlin's face turned red, and the 5 finger marks were very clear, showing the strength he had used. Everyone was stunned. Even the guards behind Yi Tianlin looked at each other, not knowing whether they should pull their young master or not. It looks like you also know that you were wrong. Yun Luofeng curled the corners of his lips. However, even if you slap me enough, I won't accept your apology. What he meant was that Yi Tianlin was doing this to apologize. Poor Yi Tianlin, he wanted to defend himself, but his throat could not make a sound. He could only let Yun Luofeng slap his face again and again. As Yun Luofeng had been very secretive when she had inserted the needles, no one had seen her actions. Moreover, Yi Tianlin could not say anything, so they thought that he had silently agreed with Yun Luofeng's words. Chapter 851. Hence, everyone was dumbfounded and could not understand what had happened. How could the arrogant Yi Tianlin know that he was wrong? The entire street was so quiet that only the sound of Yi Tianlin slapping himself could be heard. In the end, his entire face was numb, but he still could not stop his hands. When the last slap landed, his body turned limp and he fell heavily to the ground. Young Master Lin. The guard hurried forward, wanting to help Yi Tianlin up. However, just as he arrived in front of Yi Tianlin, he was sent flying with a slap. Yi Tianlin shouted angrily, "What were you doing? Why didn't you come and help me?" The guard's voice faltered and he replied weakly, "Young master, didn't you apologize to her by slapping yourself? I thought you were apologizing, so..." Yi Tianlin's throat tightened and he could not voice his bitterness. He forced himself to his feet and glared fiercely at Yun Luofeng. "Damned girl, I'm the righteous young master of the Yi family. You're only the wife of a bastard. How dare you treat me in this way? I'll make you pay." Elder Yi Xiang had ordered that no one was allowed to speak of this matter before the blood test. Hence, even though Yi Tianlin was the young master of the Yi family, he was still unaware of this matter. "Let's go." He waved his hand and led the Yi family guards away in a sorry state, not daring to stay for even a moment longer. Yun Luofeng stared in the direction where those people had left and turned towards Yun Xiao. Only then did a smile appear on her peerlessly beautiful face. "Yun Xiao, let's go back." Yun Xiao nodded silently. Her grim black eyes stared in the direction of Yi Tianlin's departure as a murderous intent rose from the bottom of her eyes. At the Yi family home. In the courtyard, Yi Jingxian was walking out when he saw a badly battered Yi Tianlin walking over with a group of guards. Yi Jingxuan's brows immediately furrowed. Yi Tianlin had clearly noticed Yi Jingxian as well. Tears of grievance rolled down his face. "Father, you have to stand up for me. That bitch actually dared to beat me up like this. She's simply looking down on the Yi family." Yi Jingxian sighed. No one knew his son's character better than he did. Yi Tianlin and Yi Tianwen were different. As the eldest son, Yi Tianwen had a steady temperament. Otherwise, he would not have been able to capture Princess Meng Yao. However, Yitan Lin, who came from the same mother as Yi Tianwen, was a dandy through and through. He must have gone out to stir up trouble today and ended up kicking an iron plate. Tell me, who is that bitch you mentioned? Even though Yi Jingxian knew that his son must have provoked someone first, it didn't mean that he would allow anyone to bully his son. Yitan Lin said with hatred, "Who else could it be? The woman beside that bastard Yun Xiao." What? Yi Jingshuan's expression changed as he shouted, "That bitch dared to hit my son? Unforgivable. Lin, I'll go and invite the elders to uphold justice. We'll definitely give you an explanation." Yitan Lin lowered his eyelids with a sinister smirk at the corner of his eyes. Whether it was that bastard or Yi Shima, he would let them know the consequences of offending him. Within the imperial city, no one would dare to oppose him. Yi Shima had just stepped into the Yi family home when he sensed that something was wrong with the atmosphere. Just as he was hesitating, a servant hurried in and reported, "Young Master Mo, the clan elders are already waiting for you in the Great Hall. They have asked you to meet them when you return." Chapter 852. Clan Elder? They're looking for me at this time. Yi Tianlin must have gone to complain. Yi Shima sneered and turned to look at Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao. "Second brother, sister-in-law, wait for me in the room. I'll deal with those stubborn old men." "There's no need," Yun Luofeng said calmly. "Let's go together." How could Yi Shima not know that Yun Luofeng did not want him to face this alone because he was the one who caused this? He sighed softly and looked helpless. "All right, but I'll say this first. Don't say anything later. Just leave everything to me." Yun Luofeng did not comment. His black eyes were full of smiles. As for what she was thinking, perhaps no one would know. In the hall, the air was suffocating. When Yun Luofeng stepped into the hall, all the elders in the hall looked at him in unison. Their eyes were filled with anger and reproach. Little Xiao Feng. Jun Fengling quickly stood up and walked in front of Yun Luofeng and the rest. She blocked them as if she was protecting her children. She looked heroic. "Don't worry. No one can touch you at all." After saying that, she glanced at everyone in the hall fiercely. A cold glint flashed across her phoenix eyes. Yi Jingxian did not say anything. However, his actions had already shown his inner choice. "Young Master Lin, tell us. What happened?" Elder Yi Xiang lowered his head and asked after a moment of silence. Yitan Lin complained with tears and snot running down his face. "Elder, I was just chatting with Yi Qi on the street. Who knew that this woman would suddenly rush out and slap me a few times? She even slapped my face to such an extent. Elder, please seek justice for me." Yi Qi was furious. He was the one who had humiliated her godmother first. That was why she had gotten into a fight with him on the street. However, he made it sound like they were just chatting. Moreover, Yun Luofeng did not even lay a finger on him. Yet he was slandering him. "This has nothing to do with my sister-in-law. It's me." Yi Qi gritted her teeth and stood up. If it wasn't for her, they wouldn't have encountered such trouble. She should stand up and bear all the responsibility. Just as she was about to take on everything by herself, Yun Luofeng's evil voice rang out in the hall. "Are you sure your face is swollen because of me?" Yitan Lin glared at Yun Luofeng. "Who else could it be if not you?" Suddenly, Yun Luofeng laughed. "The Yi family guards here will naturally listen to you and help you frame me. Unfortunately, many people saw what happened just now. As long as they ask around, they will know that your face was swollen from slapping yourself." "What nonsense are you talking about?" Yi Tianlin's expression changed as he shouted in a stern voice. Yun Luofeng glanced at him evilly. "I was wondering why you would slap your own face until it was swollen. So it was to frame me." Yian Lin was so angry that his face turned ashen. Although his face was not swollen from Yun Luofeng's slaps, he could guess that his previous loss of control was definitely related to this woman. Hearing Yun Luofeng's words, Yi Xiang's expression darkened. His cold gaze swept across the guards in the hall and he said in a low voice, "Before the master hands over the position to the second young master, this Yi family is still under my control. Now, tell me immediately what happened to young Master Lin's injuries. It's fine if you lie. I will naturally send people to investigate. If I find out that you're lying, you know the consequences. Chapter 853. The guards looked at each other and knelt on the ground, begging, "Elder, it was young Master Lin who injured himself. We had no choice but to lie for young Master Lin. Please forgive us, Elder." Elder Yi Xiang's expression gradually darkened. He glanced at Yi Lin coldly. "Is that true?" Yi Lin had initially questioned Elder Yi Xiang in a righteous manner, but now that he had heard Elder Yi Xiang's words, he immediately shriveled up and said timidly, "Elder, it was this bitch who controlled my hand. That's why I hit myself. It's all her fault." Slap. A slap suddenly landed on Yi Tianlin's face, leaving him dumbfounded. He stared at the man standing in front of him in shock. Unfilial son. Yi Jingxuan's expression was furious. "How did I educate you? Is this how you treat your brothers and sisters? Go back to your room and reflect. Without my evil orders, you're not allowed to step out of your room." Yi Lin covered his face and glared at Yun Luofeng with resentment and unwillingness. If looks could kill, perhaps Yun Luofeng would have been executed by him. "Big brother." Yi Jingxian faced Yi Jingchen and smiled. "This is a misunderstanding between the younger generation. Big brother, you've always been a reasonable person. I'm sure you won't make things difficult for Lin, or because of this." He didn't admit his mistake at all. Instead, he claimed that if Yi Jingchen didn't let it go, then he wasn't a reasonable person. If anyone else had heard this, they would have forgiven Yi Tianlin's behavior in order to show their generosity. Unfortunately, he wasn't facing an ordinary person. He was facing the hot-tempered Jun Fengling and the crazy wife protector Yi Jingchen. "You're right." Jun Fengling's face lit up with a smile. "Your big brother is indeed a reasonable person." Yi Jingxian smiled. Jun Fengling's reaction was already within his expectations. This woman was still the same as before. In order to gain the Yi family's approval, she was willing to swallow her anger. But, suddenly, the woman's tone changed. "It's precisely because your big brother is reasonable and knows what's right and wrong that I'll make sure you give my son and daughter-in-law an explanation today." Yi Jingxuan's expression darkened. "I call you sister-in-law because of my big brother. Otherwise, do you think the Yi family would acknowledge your existence? Right now, I'm talking to big brother. Since when do you have the right to interrupt?" Yi Jingchen glanced at him coldly and said indifferently, "She is my wife. Her words represent my decision." As Yi Jingchen's words fell, the other elders couldn't help but stand up. Voices of criticism and rebuke rang out in the hall. "Eldest young master, as a man, how can you listen to a woman? Women should remember the 3 obediences and 4 virtues. How can a woman who doesn't keep her chastity have the face to stay in the Yi family? In a family, the man is the one who calls the shots, which is also the woman's heaven. This woman even dared to rebel against the heavens. They should be captured and beaten to death. Yet, eldest young master is still so protective of her." Yun Luofeng instinctively placed his hand on Jun Fengling's shoulder. From the side, he caught a glimpse of the woman's cold and heroic face and could not help but frown. Had she been living like this all these years? Just because she had met someone unkind in the past, she was being criticized like this? She was even pointing at her nose and spitting at her? Why was it natural for men to be fickle while women had to follow the 3 obediences and 4 virtues? She even treated men as her heaven? Chapter 854. In her past life, Yun Luofeng had only lived for herself. She had never thought that men were everything to her. Hence, she had remained single for over 20 years in her past life. Now, even after having Yun Xiao, she still did not regard men as her sky. She would only work hard to grow and reach the level where she could fight alongside him. Yun Xiao. Yun Luofeng clenched her fists tightly as she sensed the cold aura from the man next to her. A demonic light flashed across her lowered brows. "Leave this matter to me." At least, she could not allow Yun Xiao to reveal her true power before the most important person had appeared. "All of you, shut up." At this moment, an angry bellow suddenly rang out, causing the noisy hall to fall silent in an instant. Yi Jingchen clenched his fists so tightly that they made cracking sounds. His eyes were filled with rage as he swept his cold gaze across the elders present. I, Yi Jingchen, am the eldest young master of the Yi family. My wife is naturally the young madam. Who allowed you to offend your superiors? What do you mean by the 3 obediences and 4 virtues? Do you think that I need a woman who is a yes man to me? Or a so-called virtuous wife and loving mother? All I want is a confidant who can spend the rest of my life with me. In this world, only June can resonate with my soul. You bastards who only use the lower half of your bodies will never feel this way. Yi Jingchen was known for his gentleness in the imperial city. Now that he had been forced to fly into a rage, it was clear to see how angry these people had made him. Yun Luofeng looked at Yi Jingchen. No matter how many old antiques there were in the Yi family, they had still managed to nurture a temperamental person like Yi Jingchen. Yun Xiao, it seems that I don't need to help mother deal with these matters. With father here, she won't suffer any more grievances. Yun Xiao was stunned. He lowered his head to stare at the young girl's beautiful face and promised, I won't let you suffer any grievances either. This man does not know how to use flowery words, he doesn't even know how to smile. Yet, every word that he says is so serious. Yun Xiao, when have you ever seen me suffer? Yun Luofeng smiled as she asked. Indeed, she had never suffered any grievances all these years. Meeting her, the unlucky ones would always be others. Whether it was a war of words or a fight, she had never lost to anyone. At this moment, Jun Fengling was also frightened by Yi Jingchen's sudden anger. She stared at him in surprise. In all these years, this was the first time she had seen this man lose his temper, but he was so handsome that she couldn't take her eyes off him. As long as I, Yi Jingchen, am alive, don't even think about bullying my wife and child. Yi Jingchen shot a warning glance at the antiques. As for what you just said, if I hear another word from you, I'll kill you old farts one by one, even if it means disobeying my father. Then let's go. Yi Jingchen held Jun Fengling tightly in his arms with a determined look on his face. From the moment he decided to return to the Yi family, he swore that he would not let his wife suffer any grievances. Now he had done it. Treason, betraying the clan, so what? In this life, there was only one person he wanted to protect. Elder Yi Xiang, look at eldest young master. All the elders looked at Yi Xiang with resentment in their voices. Have you guys had enough? Elder Yi Xiang said calmly. Haven't you embarrassed yourself enough? Back then, eldest young master was forced to go to Kargalik by you. Now that he's finally back and has no intention of fighting with second young master for the position, why do you have to make things difficult for a woman? Chapter 855. The voices of all the elders froze, and they were actually unable to speak a single word of rebuttal. Yi Xiang stood up slowly. If the world knew that our Yi family was making things difficult for a woman, how do you think they would look at us? His tone was as calm as ever, and there was not a trace of emotion in his turbid eyes. However, his words were like thunder, exploding in all the elders' hearts. The blood identification ceremony will be held in 3 days. Before that, I don't need to cause any trouble. With that, Yi Xiang waved his sleeves and walked out of the hall. As he left, the other elders also dispersed. Soon, only Yi Jingxian and his son were left in the hall. Father! Yi Tianlin said angrily. Yun Luofeng must have been behind this. Yi Jingxian sighed softly. I know about this. Then why did you, Yi Jingxian glanced at Yi Tianlin. Many things aren't as simple as you think. In the Yi family, besides your grandfather, Elder Yi Xiang is the most qualified. I've tried to rope this old thing in for so many years, but I still haven't been able to pull him into my camp. Yi Jingxian gritted his teeth, his eyes dark. Plus, this old thing hates fratricide the most. So, even if I believed you, I still had to teach you a lesson. Otherwise, if this old thing reported me to your grandfather, he would definitely be displeased. Yi Tianlin lowered his head. Father, I know I was wrong. You know you were wrong? Do you know what you were wrong about? I shouldn't have made that bastard my enemy. Yi Jingxian shook his head. You weren't wrong to go against Yi Jingchen's children. You just didn't have anything to use against them. So, if you don't have full confidence that you can kill them in one strike, It's best if you don't restrain yourself. All these years, Yi Jingxian hadn't done anything because he wasn't confident that he could kill Yi Jingxian and was afraid that Yi Jingxian would have something to use against him. What he wanted to do was to kill them in one strike. Otherwise, he would let them continue to live. Father, I understand. Yi Tianlin raised his head. Oh right, what's with the blood test that Elder Yi Xiang mentioned just now? Hearing this, Yi Jingxian was stunned. He glanced at Yi Tianlin and sighed. There's no harm in telling you this. That bastard Yun Xiao might be Yi Jingxian's son. What? Yi Tianlin was stunned by these words. After a long while, he finally reacted and said angrily, back then, because first uncle had no children, the position of young master of the Yi family was given to you, father. If first uncle had a son, then, Yi Jingxian smiled, interrupting Yi Tianlin. That's fine. Don't forget that her son, Jun Fengling, had been expelled from the family because he couldn't cultivate. He was a complete piece of trash. Moreover, so what if the blood test succeeded? Would the Yi clan allow a wastrel to exist? At that time, his identity will not be announced to the public. He will be a member of the Yi family's bloodline in name only. Only then did Yi Tianlin relax. A dark glint flashed across his eyes. One day, he would make those people regret bullying him. Lin, remember not to tell anyone about this. Otherwise, I'm afraid it'll be hard to clean up the mess, Yi Jingxian instructed solemnly. Yi Tianlin returned to his senses and replied seriously, Father, don't worry. I'll definitely keep my mouth shut. I won't say a word. Chapter 856. In a clean and cozy room, Jun Fengling gently shook the teacup in his hand. His handsome eyebrows were slightly raised as he smiled. Feng, your tea is pretty good. I've drunk tea for so many years, but there's no tea that can compare to the one in your hand. If you like it, I can give you a few caddies. Yun Luofeng's finger lightly tapped on the table, a light flashed in his eyes. Also, mother, you and father need to do something. What's the matter? Jun Fengling looked at Yun Luofeng in surprise and asked. Yun Luofeng muttered to himself for a while. The Yi family will definitely conceal the blood test 3 days from now. But that is not my real goal. You mean? Jun Fengling seemed to understand something and looked at Yun Luofeng with a strange light in his eyes. Yun Luofeng smiled lightly. I want you all to use the forces in your hands to spread this matter. The more people know, the better. In addition, we can't bear the responsibility for this matter. We have to push it on to Yi Tianlin. Jun Fengling fell silent, and she seemed to be thinking about something. After a while, she raised her head and asked, What do you want me to do? Very simple. A sinister smile appeared on Yun Luofeng's face. Yi Tianlin has a lot of scoundrel friends. Later, get someone to disguise as someone he knows and then get him drunk. You want him to spill the truth after drinking? Although this is possible, Yi Tianlin might not tell the truth. Yun Luofeng shook his head slightly. I don't care if he spits out the truth after drinking. You just need to let your people spread the news and tell the world that it was Yi Tianlin who said it after drinking. As for whether he really said it or not, it won't hinder my plan at all. Originally, she only wanted Jun Fengling to spread the news. She had no intention of framing Yi Tianlin, who asked Yi Tianlin to run into the muzzle of a gun. Since that was the case, what harm was there in giving him another big gift? Close call. This idea was too sinister. If those old fogies in the clan thought that it was Yi Tianlin who spread the news, his days in the Yi clan would not be any better. Jun Fengling sighed. Luckily, Yun Luofeng was her daughter-in-law. If he had become her enemy, then he would unknowingly fall into her state of mind. Feng, or I will do as you say. Jun Fengling smiled. Back then, those people forced me out of the Yi family. Now, they want to hurt my family. How can I forgive them? Jun Fengling did not think that Yun Luofeng's actions were wrong. If you are not ruthless to your enemy, you will be the one who gets hurt. Thinking of this, Jun Fengling smiled. I'll take care of these things. You and Xiao can live in peace. If you don't want anyone to disturb you, I'll instruct them not to disturb you. Yun Luofeng paused slightly, then nodded, okay. When she left Jun Fengling's room, she saw Yi Qi standing at the door anxiously. Yi Qi sensed her presence, and a trace of shame flashed across her face. She lowered her head and whispered, "Today. Thank you." "You don't need to thank me." Yun Luofeng's tone was very flat. "I just can't stand seeing people humiliate my mother." "I know." Yi Qi raised her head, her pretty eyes filled with determination. "However, I still have to thank you. After all, I've treated you like that before." Chapter 857. Even though Yi Qi had already apologized, she was still filled with guilt when she thought of what she had done that day. She felt that she would never be able to make up for her past mistakes even if she spent her entire life. "Have you ever hurt me?" Yun Luofeng glanced at Yi Qi evilly and asked. Yi Qi was stunned. "I scolded you at that time. But you've never hurt me." Yun Luofeng's smile was lazy and devilish. "So, I don't like you, but I don't hate you either." Yi Qi was stunned. While she was in a daze, the girl's figure had already walked forward and gradually disappeared from her sight. At that moment, Yi Qi finally understood the reason why Yun Luofeng did not let her godmother chase her out of the family. Even though she had been used by Shui Roer, she had never harmed her. So, she did not like her, but she did not hate her either. Yi Qi felt even more ashamed. She lowered her head and did not say a word. It was only when the door behind her opened that she slowly came back to her senses. "Qi, don't be fooled by Feng Er's ruthlessness. That's because she won't give anyone a chance to harm her." Jun Fengling raised her hand and stroked Yi Qi's head. "But if someone doesn't intend to harm her life, she won't be so heartless." Everyone said that the eldest daughter of the general's mansion was hedonistic and ruthless, but that was only because she wanted to protect herself. What's wrong with killing people to survive? If others hadn't provoked her first, why would she be so ruthless? "Godmother?" Yi Qi's eyes reddened as she turned to look at Jun Fengling. "You should be glad that you didn't do anything to harm her life. Otherwise, I wouldn't have let you go, let alone Feng. Do you understand?" Jun Fengling's gaze suddenly turned sharp, and her voice was no longer as gentle as it had been at the beginning. Yi Qi lowered her head again. "I understand. One was a goddaughter, and the other was a daughter-in-law. How could she not know which was more important?" "You must be tired. Go back and rest." Jun Fengling's expression softened. "In the future, you must get along well with Feng. She's a good child. No matter how cruel she is to her enemies, she won't use her sinister thoughts to harm her loved ones." Because of this, Jun Fengling admired Yun Luofeng even more. Yi Qi did not say another word, but she agreed with Jun Fengling's words. She could do anything to her enemies, but she would never use these people to hurt her family. The next day, a piece of news spread throughout the imperial city. It was said that Jun Fengling's illegitimate child was Yi Jingxin's biological son. All these years, no one knew of his existence because Yi Jingxin wanted to protect him. But now, the rumored illegitimate child had already returned to the Yi family and would soon hold a blood identification ceremony. As for the source of the news, it was Yi Tianlin from the Yi family who spilled it out after getting drunk. There was no need to doubt its authenticity. Thus, the entire imperial city was swept by this news. From the nobles to the commoners, there was not a single person who didn't know about it. When the news of the blood test was spread out, Elder Yi Xiang was furious and gave Yi Tianlin a good beating. Those elders who were originally in cahoots with Yi Jingxian did not dare to speak up for him. He was afraid that he would touch this misfortune. Therefore, on that day, the entire Yi family could hear Yi Tianlin's mournful cries. Chapter 858. In the luxurious royal palace, a beautiful woman was lying on a luxurious bed with her eyes closed. She was quiet and peaceful. Her face was so pale that it was almost translucent. Her skin was as delicate as a baby's. The man in the dragon robe sat beside her and held her slender hand tightly. Their fingers were interlocked and he looked determined. "Empress, don't worry. I will definitely find that lady and treat your illness. No matter the cost." At that moment, an old man walked into the palace quickly and reported to the man in the dragon robe. "Your Majesty, I have found that lady." "Xiantian, are you serious?" The man in the dragon robe stood up immediately. His eyes were filled with joy. The old man nodded. "Yesterday, Yi Shima walked out of the restaurant with that lady. Many people saw them. Therefore, I found out that the lady is the daughter-in-law of the young madam of the Yi family. Great! I will go and see that lady now. I will personally ask her to treat the empress. The man in the dragon robe was overjoyed. Ever since the empress fell ill, he had almost fallen into despair. Now that he had found a life-saving straw, he could not let it go. Your Majesty, that lady's medical skills have yet to be tested. Therefore, I suggest that you use me as a test subject and ask her to treat me first. If she successfully treats my chronic illness, I will ask her to treat the empress. The man in the dragon robe thought for a moment and nodded. All right. I will do as you say. However, I have a request. If you want to find her, she cannot be at the Yi family. Why? The old man was stunned and asked with a frown. The man in the dragon robe said coldly, the culprit who murdered the empress has not been found. Therefore, before that, no one can know that I have found someone else to treat the empress. Even if the empress gets better, no one can know about it. The man in the dragon robe sighed. Xianxia, in this palace, you are the only person I can trust. I can't guarantee that no one else will harm the empress. I don't dare to risk the empress' life. Xianxia sighed. Your Majesty, if the empress could hear what you have said, she would definitely be satisfied. The man in the dragon robe smiled bitterly and shook his head. I owe the empress too much. So, everyone says that it is the good fortune of the empress to marry Zhen. In reality, only Zhen understands that marrying the empress is Zhen's good fortune. Xianxia wanted to say something, but at that moment, a eunuch hurried over and reported respectfully, Your Imperial Majesty, the eldest princess has heard that the eldest young master of the Yi family has returned and is throwing a tantrum. She wants to leave the palace to find him. The man in the dragon robe frowned impatiently. If she wants to cause a ruckus, let her. Just ignore her. Yi Jingxin has already said that he won't marry her, but she still thinks that the royal family isn't embarrassing enough, so she's shamelessly sticking to him. Also, Jun Fengling's daughter-in-law might be able to save the empress' life. How could he allow the people of the imperial family to make trouble for them? Thinking about it, he was still a bit worried, so he ordered, Take the eldest princess into custody. Without my orders, she is not allowed to take a single step out of the palace. Yes, Your Majesty. The eunuch bowed and left the palace. Xianxia, you can leave too. The man in the dragon robe waved his hand, looking a little tired. I want to be alone with the empress. Before she gets better, I won't see anyone, especially the concubines. Xianxia cupped his fists and left in silence. Only the emperor and the empress were left in the palace. Chapter 859. Clang. As soon as Jiang Mengyao stepped out of the palace, she heard the sound of objects falling to the ground, followed by the angry roar of a woman. She was slightly startled, raised her hand to push open the door, and slowly walked into the palace. What she saw was a mess. A beautiful woman in a palace dress was standing with her hands on her hips, angrily scolding the palace maids kneeling in front of her. The palace maids were obviously scared out of their wits, and their bodies were trembling. A bunch of trash. Get out of here immediately. I want to go out of the palace to find my lover. Who allowed you to restrict my freedom here? The palace maid trembled and lowered her head. Princess Royal, this is His Majesty's order, I can't do anything. The Princess Royal became more and more angry and kicked the palace maid out. Her eyes were spewing flames of anger, and she said angrily, I don't care whose order it is. You must let me out of the palace. If you stop me again, I will immediately confiscate your 9 generations. Although the Princess Royal was spoiled, she was not weak. This kick made the palace maid's face pale, and big beads of sweat rolled down from her forehead. At this moment, a jade hand reached out from behind and supported the palace maid's body. The palace maid was startled, and when she turned around, she saw a peerless beauty that could topple a country. Your Royal Highness, 6th Princess. The palace maid came back to her senses and hurriedly knelt in front of Jiang Mengyao. She said in fear, I didn't know that the 6th princess was coming, I didn't go out to greet you, please forgive me. Jiang Mengyao waved her hand indifferently and ordered, You can leave first. The palace maid stood up and sighed in her heart. They were both royal princesses. But the Princess Royal was unruly and arrogant, while the sixth princess was gentle. Even in the face of servants, she did not make things difficult. Royal Aunt, Jiang Mingyao smiled and walked to the Princess Royal. What made you so angry? You didn't hesitate to attack innocent palace maids? The Princess Royal gritted her teeth, and her face was full of unwillingness. It's because Brother Yi is back. I want to go out of the palace to find him, but my royal brother won't let me leave the palace, so I can only vent my anger on the palace maids. Even though the Princess Royal took good care of her body, she could not hide the wrinkles at the corner of her eyes. You can imagine a woman in her 40s, using such a sweet tone to call Brother Yi, that kind of disgusting feeling. Jiang Mingyao furrowed her brows. I already know about this. I also heard something else today. Jun Fengling's illegitimate son is Yi Jingchen's biological son. What? Jiang Mingyao's words completely provoked the eldest princess. She immediately flew into a rage. That bitch actually has Brother Ye's son? Why should she give Brother Yi a son? With her family background and beauty, how can she compare to me? Jiang Mingyao shook her head as she looked at the eldest princess who had fallen into madness. Yesterday, she had met Yi Jingchen and his wife at the city gate, so naturally, she had seen Jun Fengling. It had to be said that time didn't leave any traces on this woman's face. She was still as beautiful as before, and this was something that the imperial aunt couldn't compare to. The only one who could surpass Jun Fengling was her identity as the eldest princess of the imperial family. Royal Aunt, Jiang Mingyao thought for a while and said, in 2 days, it will be the blood recognition ceremony for Jun Fengling's son. I will take you to the Yi family then. But you must promise me that no matter what, you can't act rashly. Chapter 860. The Grand Princess bit her lips and lowered her eyes, a sinister light flashing in them. That bastard is definitely not Brother Ye's son. Jun Fengling is a hen that can't lay eggs. So, I want to see how she will end up after she fails. What if Jun Fengling gave birth to a son for Brother Yi? How could he swallow his anger for so many years? Therefore, there was no need to think about it to know that this was the woman's plot. And she was eager to see Jun Fengling's expression after the plot was destroyed. The streets of the imperial city were bustling as usual. As Yun Luofeng walked on the road, he could hear the discussions of the people around him. Those people were talking about nothing more than the Yi family's blood ceremony in 2 days. Getting the result he wanted, Yun Luofeng's lips couldn't help but curl up into a smile. If you want to buy medicinal herbs, just let Yi Jingchen go. Why do you need to go personally? Fire curled her small mouth and said, Yun Luofeng looked at Fire. Everything I do must be kept secret. If I let him buy medicinal herbs for me, it will be easy for the Yi family to find out. Fire's little finger pointed at her lips, her blinking eyes full of doubt. She really didn't understand what her master wanted to do. At this time, a guard suddenly appeared in front of Yun Luofeng and respectfully clasped his fist. Miss, our master invites you to talk about old times. Yun Luofeng stopped and lightly looked up. I don't have any acquaintances in Tianyun country, so naturally there is no one I can talk to. The guard's mouth twitched. If it was as his master said, it wouldn't be so easy to invite this young lady. Miss, my master is asking you to treat her illness. She said that if you can cure her illness, she will give you 5,000-year-old medicinal herbs as a reward. 1,000-year-old medicinal herbs? Yun Luofeng raised his evil eyebrows. 10. This. The guard wiped the sweat off his forehead and carefully raised his head to look at the second floor of the tea house. When he saw the old man make a gesture, he gritted his teeth and said, All right, please follow me, young lady. Yun Luofeng nodded slightly and followed behind the guard. In fact, when the guard said that he wanted her to treat her illness, she had already guessed who was looking for her this time. Apart from the old man who tried to blackmail her in the restaurant, who else would know of her medical skills? Therefore, when Yun Luofeng saw the old man in the tea house's private room, she didn't find it strange. However, she couldn't help but look at the middle-aged man beside the old man. This middle-aged man's aura was very strong, like a general who had been on the battlefield for a long time. He was dignified and solemn, and his body was surrounded by waves of killing intent. If a normal person stood before this middle-aged man, they wouldn't even be able to raise their head. However, Yun Luofeng sat down as if nothing had happened. His expression didn't change. Ha! Suddenly, the middle-aged man laughed loudly. His serious aura disappeared, and he looked at Yun Luofeng with satisfaction. This girl isn't bad. Her temperament is calm, just like an old friend I once knew. Yun Luofeng gulped down a mouthful of tea. He glanced at the middle-aged man and said, "You're probably not here just to treat my illness?" Hee, Xianxia chuckled. "Let me introduce myself to you. I'm Imperial Physician Xianxia of the Heavenly Cloud Nation. This is the Defender General of the Heavenly Cloud Nation, Jian Chengwen, the elder brother of the Empress. This time, we invited you here because we want you to treat the Empress." Chapter 861. Yun Luofeng gently raised her brows. "My treatment fee is more expensive. As long as you can afford it, I will treat you. The 10,000-year-old herbs are the price for treating your illness. If you want to treat the Empress, I will not do it without at least 15. In the past, Xianxia would have been stunned by Yun Luofeng's exorbitant demands. However, with his Imperial Majesty's words, he only smiled and said, "All right, everything is negotiable. 25,000-year-old herbs may be precious, but with the Imperial family's many years of savings, they could still afford it. Since that's the case, I will diagnose your illness first." Yun Luofeng saw that Xianxia was so straightforward and did not make things difficult for him. After all, who could refuse a 1,000-year-old herb? Furthermore, what she lacked right now were herbs. Xianxia was stunned for a moment. He was still thinking about how to get Yun Luofeng to heal him first so that he could test her strength. He never thought that she would take the initiative to suggest it, which saved him a lot of trouble. Xianxia heaved a sigh of relief at the thought of this and smiled. "Miss, when can you start the treatment?" Yun Luofeng's voice was calm and relaxed, but it made Xianxia slightly shocked. "Do I need to prepare anything?" "No." Yun Luofeng shook her head. "Your illness is not very serious. I only need to give you a few acupuncture needles, and with the prescription, you will be cured in no time." Xianxia was completely dumbfounded. This illness that had troubled him for so long was actually saying that it was not a serious problem? "Well, if it's the silver needles, do you want me to specially make them for you?" Xianxia asked worriedly. "There's no need. My own is enough." Yun Luofeng then took out the silver needles from her space ring. Her expression was no longer as calm and relaxed as before. Instead, it was focused and serious. "Your illness is not a serious problem. It's just that because you have been injured before, the blood in your brain has been blocked by a hidden force. Your blood vessels are not flowing properly, which is why you have fallen into a coma. It's a good thing that you are quite powerful. After you fall into a coma, the power in your body will automatically break through the blockage and wake you up." Yun Luofeng took out a silver needle from his cloth bag to disinfect it as he explained to Xianxia. "However, your injuries haven't been completely cured. If this continues for too long, you'll lose your life in the worst-case scenario and become an idiot in the best-case scenario." Hearing the girl's words, Xianxia felt his hair stand on end. He had never imagined that his illness would be so serious. If he hadn't been lucky enough to meet Yun Luofeng, perhaps one day he would have fainted and never woken up again. Yun Luofeng gripped the silver needle tightly and walked behind the old man. The silver needle in her hand gently landed on the acupuncture point on his head. She pinched it lightly, and as the silver needle moved, a trace of spiritual power flowed into his body. Actually, Yun Luofeng could have cured Xianxia in the restaurant yesterday, but she didn't do so. After all, she didn't know Xianxia at all, so why would she save a stranger? That was why she had only awakened Xianxia that day. She had not done anything else. As the spiritual energy flowed into Xianxia's mind, he felt his entire body relax. It was as if there was a clear stream that was breaking through the hidden force that was blocking his blood vessels. Awesome! Xianxia could not help but cry out. All these years, aside from falling into a coma, he had also suffered from headaches. Chapter 862. Only now did he feel an unprecedented sense of exhilaration. Jian Chengwen's eyes slowly lit up. If this lady has the ability to cure Xianxia, does that mean that my little sister will be able to wake up as well? After a long pause, Yun Luofeng withdrew her silver needles and carefully wrapped them in a cloth bag. She then said without raising her head, "I've used the needles to force the hidden force out of your body. However, your body is too weak. I have a prescription here. Go back and brew the medicine. Take it for half a month and you'll be completely healed." Tan Xian blinked and stared at Yun Luofeng in disbelief. "That's it." Yun Luofeng's lips curled into a smile and she glanced at him evilly. "What else do you want? Do you want me to give you a few more needles before you can be at ease?" "No, that's not it." Cold sweat trickled down Xianxian's forehead as he smiled embarrassedly. "I'm just in disbelief. After all, this illness has been with me for many years. That's why I want to confirm if I've really recovered." Yun Luofeng slowly nodded at the old man's expectant gaze. Boom! It was as if a bolt of lightning had struck Xianxian's head. After a long pause, a wave of excitement spread from his heart and he could not help but burst into laughter. "It's done! I've really recovered." As he laughed, a stream of tears rolled down his cheeks. In the end, he actually leaned on the table and began to sob. Jian Chengwen patted Xianxian's shoulder and sighed gently. Xianxian had been troubled by this illness for so many years. Now that he had finally recovered, how could he not be excited? "Miss, I never thought that you would achieve so much at such a young age. The younger generation will surely surpass us in time." Jian Chengwen smiled at Yun Luofeng. "May I know your name, miss?" Yun Luofeng paused for a moment. This time, she did not give a fake name and answered truthfully, "Yun Luofeng." In the Imperial City, even if she had given a fake name, Jian Chengwen would still be able to find out her background based on his power. "Yun Luofeng? Why does this name sound so familiar?" Jian Chengwen was stunned and frowned. After a while, he carefully sized up Yun Luofeng and asked, "Are you from the Roaring Dragon mainland?" Vigilance flashed across Yun Luofeng's eyes. "Or you?" Jian Chengwen immediately stood up and said in an excited voice, "Are you really from the Roaring Dragon continent? Are Yun Yang and Bai Ling your parents? Yun Qingya is your second uncle?" Hearing this, Yun Luofeng narrowed her eyes. An evil light flashed in her black pupils and her voice was filled with danger. "Who the hell are you? Are you really little Luo crazy?" Jian Chengwen was very emotional. "I didn't expect you to have grown so much after not seeing you for more than 10 years. When Uncle Jian saw you, you were still a 3 or 4-year-old little girl." Seeing that Yun Luofeng still hadn't remembered, Jian Chengwen smiled faintly. "That's true. You didn't remember anything in the past, so how could you remember me? More than 10 years ago, I went to the resort to protect the queen, but we were attacked. In a panic, we broke into the Forest of No Return and entered the Roaring Dragon continent through the Forest of No Return. It was also at that time that I met your parents. Yun Yang and I were both generals, so it was natural that we felt like old friends at first sight. Bai Ling and the Empress also became bosom friends. It was a pity that the Empress and I were more sensitive back then, so we couldn't tell Brother Yun Yang the truth." Chapter 863. I still remember that Brother Yun Yang and I had gone to the Yun family and met you. I didn't expect that the little girl who was like a little bun back then would have grown up so much after not seeing you for more than a decade. Right, where are your parents? I haven't seen them for so many years. How are they? Jian Chengwen patted Yun Luofeng's head. The initial sternness in his eyes was replaced by warmth. In this world, there was only one person who could be considered a confidant by him. It was a pity that they had been lucky enough not to encounter any ferocious spiritual beasts when they entered the Forest of No Return. They did not have the courage to try again. That was why they could not go to the Roaring Dragon continent to look for his confidant and good friend all these years. "Your Uncle Jian?" Fragmented images flashed through Yun Luofeng's mind. It was a pity that these images belonged to the previous owner of this body and not her. "Girl, you still remember your uncle. Oh right, didn't your parents come with you? I haven't seen Brother Yun Yang for a long time." Jian Chengwen smiled. "Honestly, there aren't many people I admire all these years. Brother Yun Yang is the only one. I've never forgotten him all these years. The Empress often talks about your mother as well." Yun Luofeng glanced at the excited Jian Chengwen and said, "My parents have passed away." Jian Qingwen's excited expression froze. He lowered his head in shock. What did you say? Brother Yunyang has passed away? How is this possible? They're already dead. Not long after you left. The girl's words dealt a heavy blow to Jian Qingwen. He staggered and almost fell to the ground. His handsome face was pale and his eyes were filled with pain. What happened? He gritted his teeth and said hatefully, Who killed my brother? Yun Luofeng lowered his gaze and told Jian Qingwen everything that had happened in the past. After listening to Yun Luofeng's narration, Jian Qingwen was furious. What a muddle-headed and tyrannical emperor. If I had known, I would have persuaded Brother Yunyang to return to the Tianyun Empire with me. Even if I had to give him the position of general, it would be better than him working for such an emperor. After saying this angrily, Jian Qingwen looked at Yun Luofeng with pity. Xiao Luofeng, you've suffered all these years. It's all my fault. I didn't know the grievances you've suffered all these years. Otherwise, I would have gone back to the Roaring Dragon continent to avenge my brother. Yun Luofeng's eyes glinted maliciously. I've asked the person who killed them to accompany them. I believe they will get along well there. She emphasized the last few words, and a trace of coldness seeped through her beautiful and languid smile. Thinking of Yun Yang and his wife's death, Jian Qingwen's brows darkened, his heart filled with regret. If he had left a few months later, perhaps the couple would not have died so tragically. In this matter, he had an unshirkable responsibility. Little Luofeng, in this Tianyun nation, Uncle Jian's power is still very great. If someone bullies you, you can come and tell Uncle Jian. Uncle Jian will immediately bring troops to wipe out his family. His brother's death could not be redeemed, so he had to protect his brother's only daughter no matter what. He would not allow anyone to bully her. Yun Luofeng smiled, but his eyes were filled with arrogance. I've always been the one to bully others. I've never been bullied by anyone. Jian Qingwen was stunned for a moment before he burst out laughing. Your brother Yun Yang's daughter indeed. I'm relieved. Chapter 864. Let's go. Yun Luofeng shrugged. It's getting late. I'll go to the palace with you to treat the empress first. I still have other things to do. Jian Qingwen looked at her curiously. What other things are you going to do? Let me know, I'll get someone to help you. Yun Luofeng thought for a moment and said, I'm going to buy some medicinal herbs. Medicinal herbs? The National Treasury has plenty of them. I'll ask His Majesty later to let you pick the herbs from the National Treasury so you don't have to buy them from the pharmacy. Thank you. Yun Luofeng did not stand on ceremony with Jian Qingwen, accepting his kindness with a peace of mind. Jian Qingwen sighed. If Brother Yunyang sees your achievements today, he'll be proud of you. Let's go, follow me to the palace first. Your Aunt Shui is still unconscious. If she wakes up and sees you, she'll be very excited. The corners of Jian Qingwen's lips curled up into a smile, perhaps recalling the time when they were in the Dragon Roar mainland. It was a pity that time had passed and his old friend was long gone. Deep in the palace, in the high towers. Who knew how many women's youth had been buried here, and how many women's lives had been ruined by mutual deception? At this moment, in the Empress' bedroom, the man in dragon robes sat tiredly by the bed, still holding the lady's hand tightly, not even willing to blink. Perhaps it was because he had not slept for days. The man's eyes were bloodshot, looking very tired. Suddenly, a eunuch came in to report, Your Majesty, Lord Xiantian and the general are waiting outside. Xiantian is back? The man's eyes shone as he stood up quickly. Did he bring someone back? Your Majesty, there's a young lady with Lord Xiantian, the eunuch reported respectfully with his head lowered. The man in dragon robes was excited, his voice trembling uncontrollably. Quick, invite them in. Yes, Your Majesty. The eunuch bowed and retreated. Not long after, Xiantian and Jian Qingwen pushed open the door and entered. Beside them was a peerlessly beautiful young girl. The young lady was dressed in white, untainted by even a speck of dust. Her brows were filled with arrogance. However, the man in the dragon robe could sense a sinister and awe-inspiring aura from this young girl. The emperor recovered quickly and asked, Xianan, is this young lady the physician you invited? Xiantian nodded. Yes, Your Majesty, this official is talking about her. Although Xiantian had told him that the physician was very young and had asked him to be mentally prepared, the emperor did not expect her to be this young. The emperor trusted Xiantian and asked respectfully, "Master, I don't know if the empress's illness can be cured." Yun Luofeng silently walked to the empress' side. His gaze swept over the empress and he couldn't help but frown. Jian Qingwen's heart skipped a beat. "Little Luofeng, is your Aunt Shue's illness incurable?" The emperor was still wondering how Jian Qingwen had addressed Yun Luofeng, but when he heard what Jian Qingwen said next, he was scared out of his wits, and his face turned pale. "She's been poisoned." Yun Luofeng relaxed his brows. "After being poisoned by this poison, the skin all over her body will become like that of a baby. However, if this skin is accidentally touched, it will break." "She's been poisoned." Yun Luofeng paused before he continued, "She's been poisoned by another kind of poison." "This isn't poison, it's a kind of venomous spell. Those who have been poisoned by it will become more and more drowsy until they never wake up. Hence, the Empress's illness is a little troublesome." Chapter 865. The Emperor clutched his head in pain and stared painfully at the beautiful woman on the bed. "I should have accepted my fate a long time ago. The Empress's illness cannot be cured. How can I place my hopes on her?" Jian Qingwen also fell silent. At first, when he saw that Yun Luofeng could easily cure Tianxian, he naturally placed great hope in her. But now, he had fallen into despair. Even so, Jian Qingwen was afraid that Yun Luofeng would feel guilty and patted her shoulder. "Xiao Luofeng, you've tried your best. Your Aunt Shui, this is her fate." The last sentence seemed to use up all of Jian Qingwen's strength. It made him weak and powerless, as if he could collapse to the ground at any time. Yun Luofeng glanced at him. "Did I say that I can't cure the Empress?" Jian Qingwen was stunned. He did not understand what Yun Luofeng meant. Even the emperor, who was squatting at the head of the bed, could not help but raise his head to look at the beautiful young woman standing in the palace. "You mean, her illness is a bit troublesome, but it's not incurable." Yun Luofeng stroked her chin with a serious expression. "However, I'm afraid that some of the herbs I need to cure her will be difficult to find." The emperor immediately stood up. His originally ashen face instantly recovered. He hurried forward, his expression excited. "As long as you can cure the Empress, I will definitely get those herbs for you." Using dragon blood as a guide and spirit herbs as a prescription, the goo worm in her body can be removed. "I have spirit herbs, but dragon blood is not so easy to obtain." "Dragon blood?" The emperor was stunned and said hesitantly, "I remember that a few years ago, when the foreign countries offered tribute, there was a treasure called dragon blood. I don't know if this dragon blood will work." "As long as it's dragon blood, it will work." "That's great." The emperor's gloomy expression changed. His entire person became radiant. He shouted and said, "Someone, go to the national treasury and bring the dragon blood." "Yes, Your Majesty." A eunuch joined his fists and left the palace. However, just as everyone was waiting for the dragon blood, a cold voice came from outside the palace. "Move, I want to see my father." "Your Highness, His Majesty has ordered that no one is allowed to enter the Empress's palace for the time being." "What? Are you trying to stop me?" Outside the door, the woman's voice carried a hint of sarcasm. "Don't think that I don't know that Imperial Father has summoned a woman from somewhere. I just want to see who that woman is. She can confuse Father and let Father bring her into the Empress's bedroom." Jiang Mingyao's eyes darkened as a cold glint flashed across her eyes. In the imperial palace, even though the sixth princess Jiang Mingyao was arrogant, she was also someone who was not easily angered. But now, she completely disregarded her reputation and wanted to see the woman who had been summoned into the palace. Unfortunately, she was so angry not for the Empress, but for her mother who had been alone for many years. She had originally thought that because she had worked so hard for the Empress' illness, Fu Huang would see her hard work and dote on her mother a bit more. She hadn't thought that what she had been waiting for was Fu Huang summoning a woman into the palace. In particular, he had brought this woman into the Empress's bedroom. Could it be because the Empress was dying and Father wanted to make this woman the Empress? She would never allow such a thing to happen. Chapter 866. Let her come in. At this moment, a hoarse voice rang out from within the bedroom. The voice was slightly angry and seemed ready to explode. Jiang Mengyao couldn't care less. She pushed the door open and walked into the bedroom. Father! Jiang Mengyao bowed as she stepped into the bedroom. When she lifted her head, her eyes fell on a figure dressed in white. Because the young girl's back was facing her, she couldn't see her face clearly. But the sight of her back was breathtaking. Mengyao, the Empress is bedridden. What are you doing shouting outside? The Emperor's eyes darkened as he asked coldly. Jiang Mengyao scoffed, Father, you know that the Empress is ill. Then why did you bring this woman to the Empress' bedside? Are you trying to provoke the Empress so that she dies early? How dare you? The Emperor was enraged and slammed his palm on the table. Who allowed you to shout at me? And curse the Empress? Jiang Mengyao, I thought you were my most sensible daughter. I didn't expect you to be so willful and impulsive. You've disappointed me. Disappointed? Jiang Mengyao smiled coldly and looked at the Emperor fearlessly. Father, all these years, you and the Empress have been deeply in love. Have you ever thought about my mother, who has been alone every day and night? Who in the imperial city can compete with the Empress for the Emperor's favor? But now, the Empress is ill and you want a concubine. Aren't your actions muddle-headed and tyrannical? The Emperor's expression changed. He slapped Jiang Mengyao and shouted angrily, Apologize to her immediately. Jiang Mingyao's lips curled into a mocking smile. She walked quickly towards Yun Luofeng. I'd like to see who this woman is to make me, a father who is deeply in love with the Empress, fall in love with her to such an extent. In the beginning, the Emperor didn't announce Yun Luofeng's identity in order to prevent others from knowing that he had come to the Imperial Palace to treat the Empress' illness. Therefore, the people in the Imperial Palace assumed that she was the woman the Emperor had summoned. Seeing that Jiang Mengyao was about to walk to Yun Luofeng's side, suddenly, a strong body flashed behind her and tightly pressed down on her shoulder. His expression was dark. Sixth Princess, you are too rude. This lady is not His Majesty's woman. She is a doctor from the common people. His Majesty invited her to treat the Empress. Jian Shengwen stared coldly at Jiang Mingyao's back and said coldly, In addition, this lady doesn't like others to see her face. If you go against her wishes and she doesn't treat the Empress out of anger, can you bear the consequences? How could he not understand that even if the Empress recovered, the Emperor would not announce this matter to the public? That was why he had not announced Yun Luofeng's identity. But over the past few days, His Majesty had invited countless doctors to treat him, but in the end, they all returned with no results. Therefore, even if Yun Luofeng cured the Empress, they could still lie to the public that she had failed. As for not letting Jiang Mengyao see Yun Luofeng, it was also out of consideration for Yun Luofeng. He was afraid that it would bring her trouble. Indeed, after hearing Jian Shengwen's words, Jiang Mengyao stopped in her tracks and did not dare to act blindly without thinking. Even so, she gritted her teeth and said, So many doctors in the Imperial Palace have been unable to treat the Empress. How could a little girl like her succeed? Imperial Father, General, don't be fooled by her. In reality, the Emperor had found many highly respected doctors from the outside. In front of those doctors, Jiang Mengyao did not speak nonsense. Chapter 867. Now, she only felt that this woman must be very young from her back. And Jiang Mengyao had always believed that no one in the younger generation could surpass her in medical skills. How could this girl do something that she couldn't do? Father, believe me. I have the confidence to cure the Empress. Just give me time and I will definitely do it. Enough. The Emperor's face turned cold and he said sternly, Since you claim to be able to cure the Empress, then let me ask you, what illness does the Empress have? Jiang Mingyao's voice faltered. I don't know, but I'm still young. I can continue to learn. One day I will. You're young? You are indeed young, but the Empress can't wait. The Emperor smiled coldly and waved his hand. If you have nothing else, leave first. Don't interfere with the Empress' treatment. Jiang Mengyao lowered her eyes slightly. Yes, Father. After saying this, she turned to leave, but before she left, she glanced coldly at Yun Luofeng. For more than 20 years, Medical skills were what she was most proud of. She thought that she was gifted, and even father had to coax her before she dared to speak to him in such a tone. But now, father would rather believe a liar than give her a chance. Jiang Mengyao gritted her teeth and pushed the door open resolutely. One day, father would understand that no one in the same generation could surpass her in medical skills. Anyone who bragged about their medical skills was a swindler. Not long after Jiang Mengyao left, a eunuch rushed in with a porcelain bottle. He reported respectfully, "Your Majesty, the dragon blood is here. Put the dragon blood down. You may leave." The emperor nodded slightly and said indifferently, "Yes, Your Majesty." The eunuch bowed and left. In the entire palace, other than the emperor and the empress, there were only Yun Luofeng and a few others. Let's begin. Yun Luofeng took the porcelain bottle and carefully opened it. In an instant, bright red blood flowed in the porcelain bottle. It was like a red gemstone with a sparkling luster. Yun Luofeng didn't hesitate and took out a spirit herb from her space ring. Then, she soaked the spirit herb in the dragon blood. The green spirit grass sank into the dragon blood and was instantly dyed red like blood. It was bewitching and translucent. "Let her take it." Yun Luofeng handed the spirit grass stained with dragon blood to Jian Chengwen and said. Jian Chengwen nodded, took the spirit grass, and walked to the empress. He was still hesitating on how to feed her. Unexpectedly, when the spiritual grass was placed next to the empress's lips, it became nimble and entered her mouth in an instant, giving him a fright. "That's it?" Jian Chengwen blinked and looked at Yun Luofeng doubtfully. Yun Luofeng smiled. After this spirit grass was stained with the dragon's blood, it became sentient. "In another hour, the queen's poison will be cured. I'll be leaving first." "All right." Jian Chengwen raised his lips slightly. "Xiao Luofeng, I'll send someone to deliver the medicinal herbs that you deserve to you." Yun Luofeng narrowed his eyes. "I'll get Yi Shima to collect the herbs for me. Also, you don't need the dragon blood anymore. Just give it to me." "Miss Yun, if you like it, then take it." The emperor was obviously in a good mood and basically agreed to all requests. Moreover, just based on the fact that Yun Luofeng had cured the empress, he wouldn't reject her request. Chapter 868. However, Miss Yun, the empress will definitely want to thank you personally when she wakes up. Aren't you going to wait for a while? Yun Luofeng shook her head. "I still have something to do. Also, before I leave, I'll give you a prescription. Remember to let the empress take it. By then, her translucent complexion will improve. Furthermore, this prescription has the effect of nourishing the body. The empress's body doesn't seem to be very well. If she doesn't recover, she will never be able to have children." The emperor was stunned. He looked at Yun Luofeng in shock. There was a hint of nervousness in his voice. "Do you mean that the empress can still have children?" Yun Luofeng nodded gently. "Her body is weak, causing her infertility. If she takes good care of it, she can still have children." The empress's infertility was different from Jun Fengling's. Jun Fengling had been injured many years ago, while the empress's body was weak. On top of that, she was depressed, causing her infertility. Hence, the treatment methods for both parties were different. Also, Yun Luofeng paused and said, "My method only treats the symptoms and not the root cause. If you want the empress to recover completely, you can't make her sad again. First, the harem must be disbanded." The emperor fell silent. He looked at the woman lying on the bed and a trace of heartache appeared in his eyes. "I understand what you mean. Once I've resolved this crisis, I'll disband the harem." Xian Tian was stunned. He wanted to persuade the emperor, but after seeing the determination in the emperor's eyes, he swallowed his words and smiled helplessly. "Girl, you're actually persuading His Majesty to disband the harem. When that happens, will the women in the harem be able to leave safely?" Yun Lufei glanced at him. As long as he wants to do it, he can definitely do it. Xian Tian smiled bitterly and shook his head. "Forget it. If His Majesty really wants to disband the harem, as an official, I can only help him." Yun Luofeng smiled and slowly walked out of the door. Seeing her leaving figure, Jian Chengwen hurriedly cupped his fists at the emperor. "Your Majesty, I'm going to send Xiao Luofeng off. Then, without waiting for the emperor's approval, he turned and walked out. Outside the bedchamber, Jian Chengwen stared at the young girl in front of him and said with a smile, Xiao Luofeng, thank you so much this time. The corners of Yun Luofeng's lips curled up. I accepted the reward. Saving someone is something I should do. Why do you need to thank me? No, I'm not talking about that. Jian Chengwen shook his head. I'm talking about you persuading Her Majesty to disband the harem. Perhaps all these years, my sister did not say a word or complain, but only I know that every time His Majesty gave birth to someone else, she would secretly cry until dawn. It was because she was so sad that she could not bear children. Yun Luofeng stopped in her tracks. She did not look back. She lifted her eyes slightly and looked at the azure sky. Uncle Jian, you are the brother that my father has been talking about ever since he died. The Empress used to be good friends with my mother, so I will help you. The girl's expression was lazy, and the smile on her lips was lazy and devilish. It's getting late. I should leave now. I'll visit the Empress when I have time in a few days. Jian Chengwen laughed out loud. Okay, I'll send you out. After Yun Luofeng returned from the palace, she locked herself in her room and ordered milk tea to stand guard outside. Then, she entered the divine grimoire space. Xiao Mo, what's the use of this dragon blood? You want me to take it back? Chapter 869. Under the dusky sky, little Mo raised his head and looked at Yun Luofeng. His lips curled up as he said in an aggrieved manner, Master, the moment you arrived, you asked about the dragon blood. You didn't even hug me. I want Master to hug me. Yun Luofeng's face darkened. Men and women should be different. Don't you know that? But I'm only a child. Yun Luofeng glanced at little Mo and said mercilessly, You're indeed a child. A child who's even older than my ancestor. Little Mo's face fell. Just as he was about to say something, the young girl's voice rang out again. I've heard that every part of a dragon's body is a treasure and its blood is a tonic that humans yearn for. Unfortunately, the power of the dragon's blood is too overbearing. If you drink it like tea, your body will explode immediately. She had used the dragon's blood to treat the Empress. She had dipped it in a spiritual herb and did not feed it to her directly. If she drank the dragon's blood directly, her body would explode and she would die. That's for others. Little Mo's eyes flashed. I have a way for you to consume the dragon's blood, Master. Although the dragon's blood cannot help you break through to the Venerable One, it can help you reach the peak of a high-level heavenly spirit warrior. Also, little Mo paused. The dragon's blood can make your body very tough. You'll be unharmed even when you face a Venerable One's attack. Venerable One. Yun Luofeng held his breath. Does little Mo mean that as long as I consume the dragon's blood, I'll be only one step away from becoming a Venerable One? Little Mo, what should I do to consume the dragon's blood? Hearing this, little Mo's expression turned serious. I'll be by your side to help you consume the dragon's blood. However, you can't leave during this time. Yun Luofeng pondered for a moment. How long will it take? Yun Zhao's blood identification ceremony will take place in 2 days. I must leave the divine grimoire space then. Master, don't worry. I'll definitely make it. Even if I can't, I'll wake you up then. Little Mo was all smiles as he rubbed his fists excitedly. He could already see the scene of Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao cultivating together. As long as Yun Luofeng consumes the dragon's blood, that day would come closer. 2 days later, many disciples of the Yi clan were summoned to the Yi clan's sacrificial ground. They surrounded the sacrificial ground and discussed animatedly. Yi Jingxian sneered as he looked at Yi Jingchen and his wife. His lips curled into a mocking smile. Big brother, what's wrong? Why hasn't your son come out? Could it be that he's really the illegitimate child of sister-in-law and another man? He's afraid of embarrassing himself here, so he's hiding? Yi Jingchen frowned and glanced at him coldly. The ceremony hasn't started yet. Why are you in such a hurry? As for whether little Xiao is my son or not, we'll find out later. Yi Jingshuan's expression became even more mocking. Big brother, I'm doing this for your own good. I'm afraid that you'll lose face on the spot. Besides, I've long heard that Yun Xiao is a good-for-nothing. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been swept out of that wild man's family back then. After all, the Roaring Dragon mainland and the No Return mainland were separated by the Forest of No Return. Hence, Yi Jingxian was completely unaware of Yun Xiao's situation in the Roaring Dragon mainland. As for the matter of Yun Xiao being expelled from the family, he had accidentally overheard it when Jun Fengling and Yi Jingxian were having a private conversation. Chapter 870. Her Royal Highness, the sixth princess has arrived. A sharp voice pierced through the sky, silencing the noisy crowd in an instant. When the crowd turned to look, they saw a palanquin being carried in by guards. A peerlessly beautiful woman was seated in the palanquin. She was dressed in a light yellow scholarly robe and looked elegant and regal. She looked down on the crowd from high above. Mengyao, you're here? Ye Tianwen's eyes lit up and he quickly walked towards Jiang Mengyao. He reached out his hand and his handsome face lit up with a warm smile. Compared to the gloomy Ye Tianwen of the past, he now looked like an elegant young master. His entire being exuded a strong charm. Jiang Mingyao's expression softened and she gently placed her wrist on the back of Ye Tianwen's hand. She then used his strength to leap off the palanquin and landed firmly next to him. Greetings, Your Royal Highness. Everyone in the sacrificial ground fell to their knees at the sight of Jiang Mingyao's appearance. Hence, Yi Jingxian and Jun Fengling stood out from the crowd. Brother Ye. Just then, a woman dressed as a palace maid charged towards Yi Jingxian in a frenzy. Her voice was filled with unparalleled excitement as she quickly ran towards Yi Jingxian. Yi Jingxian was shocked when he heard the woman's sharp voice. He then saw a familiar face and his face darkened. Eldest princess, what are you doing here? He had long heard that the eldest princess had been placed under house arrest by His Imperial Majesty. He never thought that she would mix in with the palace maids and follow Jiang Mengyao out of the palace. Brother Ye, you're finally back. The eldest princess's eyes filled with tears. Do you know how long I've waited for you here? For your sake, I had rejected my imperial brother's offer to marry me, all for the sake of waiting for you. Yi Jingxian stumbled back, afraid that the eldest princess's spittle would splash on his face. A sense of disgust flashed across his gentle eyes. Eldest princess, please conduct yourself with dignity. Conduct myself with dignity? That word thoroughly angered the eldest princess. Her face filled with rage. You're asking me to conduct myself with dignity? No matter how frivolous I am, I'm still better than that woman next to you. She had dared to hook her arm around your arm in public. Isn't she afraid of being gossiped about? The eldest princess glared at Jun Fengling and gritted her teeth. If it weren't for this woman, she would be Brother Ye's wife. It was she who snatched her beloved Brother Yi away. Unfortunately, the Grand Princess was deceiving herself. Even if Jun Fengling hadn't appeared, Yi Jingxian wouldn't have married her. Eldest princess, are you joking? Yi Jingxian sneered. Jun is my wife. No matter what she does, it's only right. How is she being frivolous? As for you, Princess Royal, an unmarried girl chasing after a married man. Do you still have any sense of shame? Brother Yi, are you scolding me? Are you scolding me because of this woman? The eldest princess pointed at Jun Fengling and said angrily, I'll kill this woman now. Let's see how you're going to protect her. Men, capture Jun Fengling and tear him to pieces. Hearing the Grand Princess's words, the guards looked at each other in dismay. However, seeing that Jiang Mengyao did not stop the Grand Princess, they gathered their courage and stepped forward. The eldest princess lifted her chin proudly. Jun Fengling, you're a promiscuous slut. How dare you steal someone else's man? If you hadn't seduced Brother Yi, he wouldn't have abandoned me to marry you. Chapter 871. Back then, Yi Jingxian had a lot of power in the Yi family. Hence, no matter how unruly and willful the eldest princess was, she had to weigh the power in her hands. Now, the position of the young master of the Yi family belonged to the second young master. She believed that the Yi family would not hold it against her for merely killing a woman. Brother Yi. Jun Fengling raised her hand and stopped Yi Jingxian. She smiled and a sharp glint flashed across her eyes. Leave this to me. Yi Jingxian was stunned. He retracted his hand and nodded. All right. June Fengling's smile deepened, but it did not reach her eyes. Her eyes were dark. You want to steal my man? The eldest princess scoffed. Brother Yi is mine. You're the one who stole him, you shameless slut. You're the one who stole someone else's man. Slut. As soon as the eldest princess finished speaking, the crowd saw a sharp gust of wind suddenly flash by. Immediately after, the figure of the woman in red had already appeared in front of the eldest princess. The crisp sound of a slap rang out, silencing the entire sacrificial ground. Do you really think that I tolerated you back then because I was afraid of you? I, June Fengling, have never been afraid of anyone. If it wasn't for Brother Yi, I would have sent you to hell 10 years ago. The eldest princess covered her face and glared at June Fengling with hatred. She gritted her teeth. What are you standing there for? This woman dared to touch me. She's guilty of having her entire family executed. Kill her immediately. And that bastard of hers, he deserves to die too. Let's see who dares to touch her. Seeing the guards surrounding June Fengling, Yi Jingchen shouted and stood in front of June Fengling, his eyes filled with murderous intent as he scanned the surroundings. Enough. At that moment, Jiang Mengyao, who had been silent all this while, finally spoke. Imperial Aunt, we're here to witness the blood identification ceremony. We're not here for you to cause trouble. The eldest princess was a little fearful of her niece. So, after hearing her words, no matter how unwilling she was, she could only swallow it down. Brother Yi, I know that you must have been bewitched by this woman. One day, you'll regret your choice. Jiang Mengyao no longer cared about this farce. She turned to Yi Tianwen and asked, Tianwen, why hasn't the blood test ceremony started yet? Yi Tianwen lowered his eyes, concealing the sinister look in his eyes. After a long while, he raised his head to look at Jiang Mengyao and spoke in a gentle voice. I'm not sure either. Yun Xiao hasn't arrived yet, and I don't know what has happened to cause him to be so afraid of this blood test. In other words, Yun Xiao was afraid, so she didn't come to test her blood. As for the reason why they were afraid, other than him being a fake descendant of the Yi family, what else could it be? Sure enough, Jiang Mengyao believed Yi Tianwen's words. She sneered. It seems that the young master of the Yi clan is only to think that he would be deceived by a woman. That kid is not even of your bloodline. What's funny is that you would give up the princess for such a woman. What a pity. Yi Jingchen narrowed his eyes and sneered. It's not the official time yet. How do you know that little Xiao won't be coming? Furthermore, if my father doesn't appear, how can the ceremony begin? Just as Yi Jingchen finished speaking, a languid laughter filled the air, causing the noisy sacrificial ground to become silent for a moment. Chapter 872. Father, Mother, Yun Xiao and I were too tired last night, so we overslept. Are we late? It was impossible for anyone not to understand the meaning behind the word, too tiring. For a moment, no one could find an excuse to refute them. Yun Luofeng had indeed woken up late. By the time she left the divine grimoire, it was already morning. But he still had to brew the medicine for Yun Xiao. The goal was to allow him to fuse with any blood type. That was why she had come late. Looking at Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao, June Fengling's expression finally softened. She smiled. It's fine if you come a little late so that I can have a grandchild as soon as possible. Everyone's expression changed as they looked at June Fengling accusingly. Sister-in-law, Yi Jingxuan's eyes darkened as he said coldly, your daughter-in-law is too rude. Not only does she not bow to the princess, she's also so arrogant towards us elders. Shouldn't you discipline her a little? June Fengling glanced at Yi Jingxian coldly. My daughter-in-law takes after my personality. No matter how arrogant and rude she is, it's because I condone her. What can you do to us? Yi Jingxuan's expression darkened instantly. All these years, June Fengling had swallowed humiliation in the Yi family, so much so that he had forgotten this woman's insolent personality. Want her to discipline her daughter-in-law? That was undoubtedly a fool's dream. Women should be more obedient. Seeing that he could not convince June Fengling, Yi Jingxian turned to Yun Xiao. If you want to be a member of the Yi family, you must discipline your wife. How is a man who can't even discipline a woman different from a good-for-nothing? Yun Zhao's expression was cold and expressionless. Only useless men flaunt their power in front of their wives. What he meant was that only useless men would clamor at their wives. A truly powerful man would do his best to protect his wife and vent all of his anger on his enemies. Yi Jingxuan's expression grew uglier. Was this fellow calling him useless? In his opinion, women were accessories to men. No matter how strong and outstanding a woman was, she was nothing more than that. Is everyone here? Suddenly, an old figure appeared in the sky. Not long after, an old man appeared in the sky. His white robes fluttered in the wind as he stood in midair. His gaze was calm as he scanned the crowd. When his gaze landed on Yi Jingxian, he paused for a moment before he turned away as though nothing had happened. Since everyone is here, let's start the blood test. Yes, Patriarch. Hearing this, someone immediately went to prepare. After a while, that person came back with a basin of water and placed it on the altar. Yi Jingxian seemed to have sensed the nervousness in Jun Fengling's heart. He held her hand tightly, giving her courage. Then he slowly walked towards the altar. Wait for me. Yun Xiao leaned over to Yun Luofeng's side. I'll be back soon. With that, he turned around and walked to the altar in a few steps. Yi Jingxian's blood dripped into the basin of water, creating a layer of ripples on the surface. At the same time, Yun Xiao also dripped a drop of blood expressionlessly, dyeing the surface of the water red. Initially, the two drops of blood were scattered in different directions. But very quickly, the two drops of blood merged in front of everyone's eyes. That's right. They had indeed merged in front of everyone's eyes. Everyone gasped. Perhaps they hadn't thought that Jun Fengling's illegitimate son was really Yi Jingxian's son. Chapter 873. At this time, Jun Fengling was relieved. Although she didn't know what was going on, she understood that it was definitely related to Yun Luofeng. The blood test has been successful. Yun Xiao is indeed the blood of our Yi family. The old man looked at Yi Jingxian with a complicated expression. He sighed softly and announced his decision. The quiet crowd finally burst into an uproar at this moment. Everyone started discussing below the stage, and the topic of their discussion revolved around Yun Xiao. In everyone's eyes, Jun Fengling was no longer a promiscuous woman, and Yi Jingxian was no longer a green-haired tortoise. But now, they had a new topic. Yun Xiao was a good-for-nothing. A piece of trash who had been kicked out of the clan was actually a member of the Yi clan. This made the Yi clan members unable to accept it for a while. Patriarch. Just as everyone was discussing, Yi Xiang, who had been silent the whole time, walked out and cupped his fists respectfully. Since he is indeed of the Yi clan's bloodline, he should be recorded in the family tree and change his surname to Yi. Yi Xiang said this for Yi Jingxian's sake. All these years, the Yi family owed him too much. No matter what, he had to fight for the greatest benefits for his son. My surname is Yun. I am a member of the Yun family. Right after Yi Xiang finished speaking, a cold voice suddenly sounded out, causing another uproar. Elder Yi Xiang wanted him to return to the Yi clan, but he actually refused? Where did this trash get his courage from? Yi Xiang suppressed the anger in his heart and said in a deep voice, Young Master Xiao, you are of the Yi family's bloodline. How could you be a member of the Yun family? The man's expression was as cold as ever, but his tone was extremely firm. I'm already married to Feng, so I'm a member of the Yun family. He didn't say marry, but marry. From this, one could see the weight of Yun Luofeng in his heart. Impudent. Yi Jingxuan's face darkened as he shouted, Yun Xiao, do you know what you are saying? A live-in son-in-law was a disgrace to the Yi family. My Yi family will never allow such a thing to happen. Yi Jingxian couldn't wait for Yun Xiao to not return to the family tree, but he couldn't tolerate someone bringing such shame to the Yi family. Otherwise, if word got out, the Yi family would become the laughingstock of the world. Yun Zhao's cold gaze gradually fell on Yi Jingxian. To me, becoming the Yun family's son-in-law is my pride. Yi Jingxian was so angry that he almost went crazy. His eyes turned a few times, and he looked at the old man in midair. Father, since this brat refuses to change his surname, then our Yi family has no need for this piece of trash to return. Father, please expel him from the Yi family. Never to be included in the family tree. If Yun Xiao wasn't a member of the Yi family, then whatever he did would have nothing to do with the Yi family. He didn't need to feel humiliated. In midair, the old man glanced at Yun Xiao indifferently. If he doesn't want to change his surname, then let him be. Father? Yi Jingxian was stunned. For a moment, he didn't understand what the old man meant. That's it then. I'm tired. I'll leave the rest to Yi Xiang. The old man waved his sleeves and turned to leave. Before he left, he seemed to inadvertently glance at Yi Jingxian. That gaze contained an indecipherable meaning. Yi Jingxian returned to his senses, and his cold gaze turned towards Yi Jingxian and the others. He laughed mockingly. Big brother, it's not that I don't care about our friendship, but as you can see, father doesn't recognize him as his grandson anymore. So, I'll expel him on father's behalf. Chapter 874. Unexpectedly, just as he finished speaking, Yi Xiang's voice came from behind. The master's words didn't mean to expel him from the family, but whether he wants to enter the family register and change his surname is up to him. Yi Xiang didn't understand the elder's decision, but he had always been loyal and naturally wouldn't go against any of the elder's orders. Yi Jingxian's smile froze. Impossible. This brat doesn't even want to change his surname and even became a son-in-law. How could father tolerate him? Second young master, this is the master's decision, we can't have any objections. Yi Xiang frowned slightly. Since this matter is over, you can all leave now. Yi Jingxuan's face turned from green to white, then from white to green. In the end, he laughed coldly, his lips curling into a mocking smile. Big brother, it's not that I want to criticize you, but you finally have a son, but he's a good-for-nothing. If he wasn't a good-for-nothing, perhaps I would be a little more afraid. It was because he thought Yun Xiao was a good-for-nothing that he was so unscrupulous. Also, Yi Jingxian paused, then smiled. Your daughter-in-law can't be compared to Princess Mengyao. Princess Mengyao's medical skills are brilliant. Even His Majesty loves her dearly. If she can cure the Empress's illness, she will immediately be conferred the title of Crown Princess. Tell me, how can you compare to me? He purposely said this so that Yi Jingxian could hear him. Hence, he purposely lowered his voice. Unfortunately, Yun Xiao and Yun Luofeng's ears were extremely sharp. How could they not hear these words? Faced with Yi Jingxuan's words, Yun Luofeng only shook his head in amusement, disapproving. But Yun Xiao wouldn't allow anyone to say anything bad about Yun Luofeng. Hence, he curled his finger slightly and a streak of spiritual energy was sent down, hitting Yi Jingxuan's back joint. Thump. Caught off guard, Yi Jingxian suddenly knelt in front of Yi Jingxian. This time, not to mention the people around, even Yi Jingxian was dumbfounded. Father! Yi Tianwen's expression changed, clearly not knowing what had happened. Jiang Mengyao frowned slightly but didn't say anything. She looked at the two with a pair of questioning eyes. Second brother, what are you doing? The corners of Yi Jingxian's lips curled up, but his tone was very polite. Even if you want me to take little Xiao away, you don't have to kneel down and beg me. How can I, the elder brother, make things difficult for my younger brother? Get up quickly, I'll prepare to leave the Yi family in a while. Yi Jingxian had always been flexible. Even if he didn't understand what was going on, it didn't mean that he wouldn't take the opportunity to trick Yi Jingxian. Hearing this, Yi Jingxian was stunned. When did he beg Yi Jingxian to take Yun Xiao away? However, Yi Jingxian was also a scheming person. It didn't take him long to understand the meaning of Yi Jingxian's words. He immediately gritted his teeth in hatred. This kid actually wanted to harm him. If she really let Yi Jingxian leave, she would have to bear the crime of chasing her brother away. After all, things were different now. Back then, he had an excuse to chase Yi Jingxian away. Now that Yi Jingxian had a son, how could he chase him away? Big brother, I was just joking. Yi Jingxian smiled embarrassedly. Besides, I'm not kneeling to you, big brother. My legs are just a little weak. Yi Jingxian crawled up from the ground and pretended to rub his knees. Since this nephew of mine has returned to the Yi family, as his uncle, I definitely won't mistreat him. I hope that my nephew will attend tonight's family banquet. Chapter 875. Yi Jingxian chuckled. Definitely. He wanted to see what his brother was up to this time. It was nighttime. The night sky was as clear as water. The Yi household was brightly lit. Servants and maids came and went. It was bustling with activity. Yun Luofeng's family of 6 had just entered the banquet hall when they heard compliments coming from inside. Jiang Mingyao sat beside Yi Tianwen and smiled at those who came to compliment her. However, her smile disappeared very quickly. She frowned and glanced at the family of 6 who had appeared at the entrance of the banquet hall. Second brother, you seem to have placed too few seats. Yi Jingxian's face darkened when he saw the situation in the banquet hall. There are 6 of us. Why are there only 4 empty seats? Yi Jingxian chuckled. I'm sorry, big brother. There are only so many chairs in the banquet hall. There are no more empty seats. Sister-in-law, as your wife, should naturally take a seat. Yun Xiao and Yi Shima, as men, have the right to sit too. Therefore, we can only let Yun Luofeng and Yi Qi, these 2 women, sit in the lower seats. Yi Jingxian's face darkened. He knew that his brother wouldn't stay put. He didn't expect him to be making things difficult for him here. I think this seat is just right. Jun Fengling smiled. Second brother, the 6th princess hasn't married Tianwen yet. Logically speaking, she doesn't have the right to attend the Yi family banquet. Moreover, she's also a junior. Why don't you ask her to give up her seat? Jun Fengling paused and a cold look flashed in her eyes. Moreover, even the 6th princess palace maid can sit in the Yi family banquet. Why are you forcing my daughter-in-law and goddaughter to sit in the lower seats? In reality, the 6th princess palace maid didn't have the right to sit. However, in order to make things difficult for Yun Luofeng, Yi Jingxian had specially discussed this with the 6th princess. Therefore, the palace maid had taken a seat. Yi Jingshuan's face darkened. Sister-in-law, what are you saying? The 6th princess has such a noble status. How can Yun Luofeng and Yi Qi compare? And as the 6th princess palace maid, her status is higher than your daughter-in-law and daughter. You actually want the 6th princess and her palace maid to give up their seats? Don't you know any etiquette? In other words, even the personal maid of the 6th princess had a higher status than Yun Luofeng. Looks like you don't want us to participate in this family banquet. Jun Fengling smiled coldly. If that's the case, there's no need for us to suffer here. Brother Yi, let's go. Yi Jingxian smiled sinisterly. Sister-in-law, it's not that I didn't invite you to the family banquet, it's that you didn't want to come. Don't push the blame on me when father asks. Yi Jingxian's face was ashen. He suppressed his anger and turned to face Jun Fengling. There's no point in coming to such a place. Alright. Jun Fengling smiled. Xiao, Fenger, let's go. As she finished speaking, she stepped forward and grabbed Yun Luofeng, wanting to leave the banquet hall. However, at this time, Yun Luofeng pushed her hand away, and the smile on his lips revealed a trace of coldness. Wait a moment. Jun Fengling was stunned. Just as she was in a daze, Yun Luofeng had already walked in front of the table. She lifted her long leg and kicked the long table fiercely. In an instant, the long table cracked, and all the delicacies on the table fell to the ground, staining the floor. Everyone was stunned. Yun Luofeng's actions were too domineering, so domineering that they could not recover for a long time. Chapter 876. What are you doing? Yi Jingxian was the first to react. He abruptly stood up and glared angrily at Yun Luofeng. If looks could kill, Yun Luofeng would have already been executed by him. The young girl looked at Yi Jingxian evilly. If you don't want us to attend the banquet, then no one should attend. She was just that arrogant. If you don't want us to eat in peace, then no one should eat at all. It seems like this is how you were raised? Jiang Mingyao wiped her mouth with a handkerchief and her arrogant gaze swept over Yun Luofeng coldly. In the royal family, even a palace maid is more educated than you. Besides, what Uncle Yi said is not wrong. Even my palace maid is more qualified to attend the banquet than you. Jiang Mingyao indeed had her pride. As a princess of the royal family, her status was extraordinary. Coupled with her impressive talent, who in the younger generation dared to not obey her? Only Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao were exceptions. Because, from the moment they entered the door, they didn't even look at her. It was as if she was invisible and they directly ignored her existence. How could Jiang Mingyao, who had always been the center of attention, stand this? The Yi family elders also regained their senses and began to criticize. Eldest young master, young madam, it's fine that this little girl is usually rude to the Yi family, but now she even dared to ruin the banquet in front of the sixth princess. Shouldn't you punish her? The sixth princess is of noble status. She only needs to open her golden mouth and you will be placed in an important position. But look at you. Today, if you don't give us an explanation, we won't let this matter rest. That's right. We won't let this matter rest. This time, even the master can forget about protecting you. Make her apologize to the sixth princess. Otherwise, the Yi family will never allow such a person to stay. Yi Jingqian's face darkened bit by bit. His gentle eyes became as sharp as a sword as he glared at the old men who were clamoring for him. His anger was gradually unleashed. Explanation? What explanation? Yi Jingqian sneered and said mockingly, Jiang Mengyao is of noble status. Is my daughter-in-law very lowly? Don't you think you've gone too far? I'll only say this once. Even 10 Jiang Mengjios can't compare to my daughter-in-law. Puchi. Someone in the crowd laughed. Soon after, the others also laughed. Their laughter echoed throughout the entire banquet hall. Some people laughed so hard that they couldn't even bend their backs. What did they just hear? 10 Princess Mengyao combined couldn't compare to Yun Luofeng? Was Yi Jingqian becoming more and more stupid? Even if it was just Princess Mengyao, she could still trample Yun Luofeng under her feet. Yun Zhao's grim eyes gradually sank as he stared at the people who were roaring with laughter. The aura from his body surged wildly, causing the entire banquet hall to become heavy and oppressive. Then he made his move. His movements were very fast. In an instant, Yi Jingxuan's body was sent flying, crashing onto the floor full of leftovers. Father! Uncle Yi. Yi Tianwen and Jiang Mingyao's expressions changed. They wanted to check on Yi Jingxuan's condition, but at this moment, a strong force came from behind and flung them away, causing them to vomit blood. Yi Jingqian. Yi Jingxian clutched his chest as he stood up. His eyes were filled with anger as he glared at Yi Jingqian. I call you big brother out of respect. Don't be too impudent. Injuring me is one thing, but you even dared to hit Princess Mengyao. Will you only be satisfied if you drag the Yi family down? Chapter 877. He was certain that Yi Jingqian was the one who took advantage of the situation earlier. This was because Yi Jingqian was the only one who had the ability to do so. Just as Yun Xiao was about to make another move, a voice full of energy came from outside the hall. I'm not late, am I? Yi Jingxian was momentarily stunned. He lifted his head to look and immediately saw a middle-aged man dressed in martial attire striding in from outside the door. His dignified features were filled with a smile. Seeing Jian Qingwen's sudden appearance, Yi Jingxuan's heart trembled. In the imperial city, the person he feared the most was none other than the famous great general of the nation. As for the reason why they were afraid of him, it was not because he was the empress's elder brother. It was because Jian Qingwen had been on the battlefield for a long time. His vicious aura made him feel fear from the bottom of his heart. General, why are you here? Yi Jingxian hurried over and asked respectfully. This guy was someone he didn't dare to offend. Therefore, in front of Jian Qingwen, he lowered his stance. Jian Qingwen glanced at Yi Jingxian. I heard that the son of the eldest young master of the Yi family has returned to the family, so I specially came to congratulate him and also to find someone. Yi Jingxian was stunned for a moment. He glanced at Jiang Mengyao, whose lips were still stained with blood. Could it be that the general was looking for Princess Mengyao? If he knew that the princess was injured in the Yi clan, not only would Yun Luofeng and the others be dismembered, even he might not be able to protect himself. After all, the sixth princess's medical skills were superb and she had been busy with the empress recently. How could Jian Qingwen not avenge her? Yi Jingxian wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and said awkwardly, the sixth princess will be returning to the palace in a moment. How could I trouble you to come and fetch her? Our Yi family will definitely escort her back. Jian Qingwen frowned. Who told you that I'm here to find the sixth princess? Yi Jingxian was stunned. The general didn't come for the sixth princess? I'm looking for Yun Luofeng. When Jian Qingwen finished speaking, the entire banquet hall exploded. Everyone could not help but stand up with a hint of astonishment in their eyes. The general came here to find Yun Luofeng? Could it be that this lass had stirred up some trouble outside and attracted the general? They already knew that Yun Luofeng was so restless that they shouldn't have allowed her to stay in the Yi clan. General, listen to me. Yun Luofeng is only Jun Fengling's daughter-in-law. She has nothing to do with the Yi family. The Yi family does not acknowledge her existence. If she provokes the general can take her away and deal with her as you wish. The Yi family will not interfere. Yi Jingxian glared fiercely at Yun Luofeng. She would never have a day of peace after offending the general. At that moment, Yi Jingxian didn't notice Jian Qingwen's expression gradually turning cold after he finished speaking. Feng. Jun Fengling subconsciously grabbed Yun Luofeng's arm and shot a sharp look at Jian Qingwen. If Jian Qingwen dared to make any strange moves, she would definitely not ignore him. A cold light surged on Yun Zhao's body, and the space between his brows was filled with coldness. His aura was filled with killing intent, which made Jian Qingwen look at him coldly. It said that the Yi family's eldest son, who has been missing for many years, is a good-for-nothing. However, in my opinion, he's more outstanding than anyone else. Ha! Jian Qingwen laughed out loud and walked quickly towards Yun Luofeng. Xiao Luofeng, is this how you live your life in the Yi family? If that's the case, why don't you follow me to the general's residence? At least you won't have to be at the mercy of others here. Chapter 878. Yi Jingxuan's face suddenly froze as he looked at the man walking towards Yun Luofeng. His face instantly turned pale. This is impossible. How could the general know Yun Luofeng? Moreover, their relationship doesn't seem to be ordinary. Oh, that's right. Jian Qingwen turned his eyes and raised his eyebrows at the pale Yi Jingxian. You just said that Yun Luofeng isn't a member of the Yi family? Is this your own decision or an order from the Yi family's patriarch? Cold sweat rolled down Yi Jingxuan's forehead. He subconsciously raised his head to wipe it away and forced out a few words. General, you know Yun Luofeng? This girl is the daughter of an old friend of mine. Now that we coincidentally meet here, do you think we know each other? At this moment, Yi Jingxian thought of what he had just said and his face flushed red. It was as if someone had slapped him in the face, making his cheeks hurt. General, it's a misunderstanding. It's all a misunderstanding. I didn't know you knew each other. Misunderstanding? Jian Qingwen sneered. My little niece has suffered so much in your Yi family, and you're using a misunderstanding to brush me off? Today, if you don't give me an explanation, I won't let this matter rest. This sentence was what Yi Jingxian had just said to Yi Jingxian, but Jian Qingwen had inadvertently returned it to him. Enough. Jiang Mengyao stood up from the cold ground. She wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth and looked coldly at Jian Qingwen. General, are you using your position to avenge a personal grudge? Are you using the soldiers of my Tianyun country like this? Do you really think that just because my father dotes on the empress, you can be so lawless? Let me tell you, this princess will protect the Yi family. If my father knew that you were going against me for this kind of woman, who do you think he would help? Jiang Mengyao raised her beautiful face slightly, her lips curling into a proud smile. She was the princess of the imperial family and the daughter of the emperor. It was impossible for the general to not know which was more important. Jian Qingwen sneered. Coincidentally, I have brought a decree from His Majesty. The emperor has decreed that Yun Luofeng will be conferred the title of Heavenly Cloud Nation's emperor. Even princesses and princes had to pay their respects to her. If any of the members of the royal family disrespected her, she had the power to kill them. Wu Su reports here. After finishing his speech, Jian Qingwen turned to Yun Luofeng and said with a smile, Little Luofeng, His Majesty originally wanted to give you a position, but he knew that you would definitely not accept it, so he gave you a special privilege. From now on, you can walk unhindered in Heavenly Cloud Nation. Yi Jingxuan's face turned pale. He staggered a few times and gritted his teeth. General, are you joking? Why would His Majesty give her such a privilege for no reason? Furthermore, if a member of the royal family was disrespectful to her, she would have the power to decide his life or death. Such a privilege had never existed in history. Therefore, he was certain that Jian Chengwen had purposely made up this lie to help Yun Luofeng vent his anger. General, Uncle Yi is right. Jiang Mengyao gritted her teeth tightly. Her face was still filled with arrogance. My imperial father felt that it was impossible for him to pass down such an oral edict. So, you should understand the consequences of misinforming the emperor. Just now, Jiang Mengyao said that Yun Luofeng's status was not even comparable to the palace maids around her. If His Majesty really gave her such a privilege, what she said was undoubtedly a slap in the face. This was something that Jiang Mengyao could not tolerate. Chapter 879. Sixth Princess, you can go back and ask His Majesty if this oral order is true. Jian Chengwen laughed coldly. Furthermore, I don't have the guts to pass on a false imperial order. Jiang Mingyao's face was as white as snow. She felt her usual arrogance shatter in front of Yun Luofeng. She couldn't help but take 2 steps back. Sixth Princess. Jun Fengling smiled slightly. A cold light flashed across his heroic eyes. Up until now, do you still think that my daughter-in-law can't even compare to your status as a palace maid? Jiang Mingyao's body trembled. She clenched her fists tightly and glared at Yun Luofeng angrily and unwillingly. If Jiang Mengyao was a little more rational, perhaps she would have recognized Yun Luofeng as the white-clothed girl she had seen in the palace that day. However, she had long been filled with the flames of jealousy. As a result, her mind was a mess and she completely did not understand this point. It was because she couldn't understand that she had done something that she would regret for the rest of her life. So, in the eyes of the sixth princess, Xiao Luofeng is not even comparable to a palace maid? Jian Chengwen frowned slightly and glanced coldly at Jiang Mengyao. Even if she doesn't have the status bestowed by the emperor, she is still the Yi family's daughter-in-law. Who is this palace maid next to you? Is she more honorable than the Yi family's daughter-in-law? His sharp gaze swept over the palace maid. Under his knife-like gaze, the palace maid couldn't resist and knelt on the ground with a thud. Uncle Yi, I'll leave first. Jiang Mingyao's face paled. After saying goodbye to Yi Jingxian, she hurried away with a group of palace maids and guards. It was as if she would hear Jian Chengwen's mocking voice if she stopped. Jian Chengwen smiled coldly and swept his gaze across the crowd. He curled the corners of his lips slightly. I wonder if anyone else thinks that this general is passing on a false oral order? The crowd looked at each other. Although the Yi family had a large business, it was still in existence dependent on the royal family. So, if this oral order was true, from now on, no one in the Yi family would dare to provoke Jun Fengling's family. Even Yi Jingshuan's position might be returned to Yi Jingxian. Yi Jingxian lowered his eyes slightly, and a dark look flashed across them. It seemed that Yun Luofeng could not be allowed to stay. Otherwise, he would lose his position sooner or later. General, Yi Jingxian laughed dryly, our Yi family's banquet has been destroyed, so we are unable to entertain you. Please help yourself, I'll take my leave to rest. After saying this, Yi Jingxian hurried off into the night. The night was hazy. A crescent moon hung in the night sky, illuminating the night. Suddenly, a black-robed man descended from the sky and landed in front of Yi Jingxian. Second young master. Ying, I've treated you well all these years, haven't I? Yi Jingxian asked with a serious expression. The black-robed man, who was called Ying, lowered his head and said respectfully, my life was saved by the second young master, so even if I have to work for the second young master, I am willing. Good, Yi Jingxian nodded in satisfaction. Tonight, you will go and finish off Yun Xiao and Yun Luofeng. If someone finds out, you'll have to bear all the consequences. Yes, Ying replied respectfully. He immediately stood up and disappeared into the boundless night with a flash of black light. Yi Jingshuan's expression gradually darkened. He clenched his fists tightly and a cold look flashed across his eyes. Yun Luofeng, Yun Xiao, those who oppose me will never have a good ending. Chapter 880. It was nighttime. The watery moonlight poured down and enveloped the simple yet elegant room. At this moment, the tightly shut door was pushed open by a hand. A man shrouded in black entered the room and tiptoed towards the 2 people who were sleeping soundly. On the bed, the handsome man and beautiful woman were hugging each other as they slept, as if they had not noticed the black-robed man's appearance. The black-robed man stood on the bed and a dagger suddenly appeared in his hand. He aimed it at Yun Zhao's heart and thrust it fiercely. The corners of his lips curled into a sinister smile and his eyes were arrogant, as if he could already see the scene of the man's heart being pierced. Suddenly, a hand reached out and firmly grabbed the dagger that he had thrust downwards. The black-robed man was stunned. When he raised his head, his eyes met a pair of grim black eyes. Those black eyes were like a serene and deep cold lake, emitting a light that made one tremble with fear. Astonishment flashed across the black-robed man's eyes. He looked at the man on the bed in panic and laughed bitterly. Everyone in the imperial city thinks that Yi Jingxian's newly acknowledged son is a good-for-nothing, but I never thought that you'd be the one who's really hiding your abilities. He was an assassin, and as an assassin, of course, he could hide his aura. Unfortunately, Yun Xiao had still sensed his presence. If he said that he was a good-for-nothing, the black-robed man would never believe it. Who sent you? A languid and satisfied voice sounded from the side, causing the black-robed man's already shocked expression to become even more shocked. It turned out that Yun Xiao wasn't the only one who had discovered his arrival. Even Yun Luofeng had similarly hidden her abilities. The black-robed man gently closed his eyes. He understood that this time, his master had kicked an iron plate. These two people were even more difficult to deal with than Yi Jingxian and his wife. I just don't like the sight of you. No one sent me. The black-robed man opened his eyes, his face expressionless. His life had been saved by the second young master, so no matter what, he couldn't betray him. Yun Luofeng jumped up from the bed and quickly picked up the clothes beside her to put them on. Then, she sat in front of the table, crossed her legs and looked at the pale-faced black-robed man with an evil smile. It doesn't matter if you don't tell the truth, I have thousands of ways to make you spill the truth. At this moment, Yun Xiao was already standing on the ground. He was dressed in grim black robes and a thick chill enveloped the entire room. It was so cold that the black-robed man could not help but shiver. But he clenched his teeth tightly and didn't make a sound. Cold sweat rolled down his forehead, and soon his back was drenched in sweat. I really don't know what you guys are talking about. In the beginning, Yi Jingxian had instructed the black-clothed man to keep his mouth shut if he failed. That was because he thought Yi Jingxian and his wife would send someone to protect Yun Xiao. Little did he know that these two people were not people he could afford to offend. Especially Yun Xiao. This man had always hidden his edge, but the moment he revealed it, he could not help but feel fear from the bottom of his heart. Just by looking at him, he felt as if there were needles on his back. Have you ever heard of a type of torture? Yun Xiao lifted his eyes and looked at Yun Luofeng. That torture is to have someone use a knife to cut countless holes in the body, then find some man-eating ants, and let those ants drill into the holes in the body until the body is completely devoured. Yun Xiao swept a glance at the black-clothed man who was drenched in cold sweat, his expression grim. I think we can let him try this kind of torture. Chapter 881. Yun Luofeng stroked his chin and blinked. That's not a bad idea. Then, she stood up and walked slowly towards the man in black. Actually, even if you don't tell me, I know who sent you here. However, since you want to protect me wholeheartedly, I'll do as you wish. I'll use the method that Yun Xiao mentioned to deal with you. The young girl stopped in her tracks and her lips curled into a sinister and cold smile. The man in black saw that smile as if a demon was recruiting him. The man in black could no longer control the fear in his heart and quickly leaped out of the door. As soon as he broke through the door, a cold aura chased after him and knocked him down from the sky. He crashed onto the ground with a thud. What's going on? Yi Jingxian and his wife were alarmed by the commotion and quickly walked over. At the same time, the other elders of the Yi family also heard the commotion and rushed over from all directions. Brother, sister-in-law, are you all right? Yi Shima had already walked to Yun Luofeng and Yi Jingshuan's side. He glanced at the man in black who had fallen to the ground and frowned slightly. Where did this fellow come from? An assassin? Yi Qi was clearly in shock as well. When she thought that these assassins had come to attack Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao, her heart boiled with anger. This assassin is here for Yun Xiao and me. Yun Luofeng glanced at the crowd that had appeared out of thin air. That's why I'm interrogating him about the mastermind behind this. Hearing this, Jun Fengling was so angry that her hair stood on end. Her figure flashed and she appeared in front of the assassin. She lifted the assassin up horizontally and flung him down violently. The black-robed man, who had already been beaten half to death by Yun Xiao, let out a muffled groan under Jun Fengling's beating, then stopped moving. Yi family, you're really good. Jun Fengling frowned coldly. First, you made things difficult for my son and daughter-in-law. Now you've even sent someone to assassinate them. You've really disappointed me. What do you mean by that? An elder stood out from the crowd and said coldly, do you think that this assassin was sent by the Yi family? Jun Fengling glanced at the elder and her lips curled into a mocking smile. This old man was Yi Jingshuan's man and had always been on his side. How could he expect these people to stand out and be fair? Who else but the Yi family? Jun Fengling raised his handsome brows. I don't believe that an outsider can come to the Yi residence unscathed, especially when the person he wants to kill is not someone else but my daughter-in-law and son. Suddenly, a chuckle came from behind the crowd, causing the people in the middle to move. Yi Jingxian gently waved his folding fan and slowly walked over with a smile. His eyes were incomparably gloomy and filled with a vicious light. Yi Jingxian said, he, the, yi, comma, yi, xt. Yi Jingxian said sinisterly, I know you all hate me. Before this, we completely fell out. It's only right for you to blame me for this. But, Yi Jingxian paused and said, we'll deal with the Yi family's matter later. Now, I'll kill this evil person to avenge big brother and sister-in-law. With that, Yi Jingxian did not give anyone a chance to react. He quickly and nimbly attacked the man in black who had fallen to the ground. His eyes were filled with a strong murderous intent. Chapter 882. Just as Yi Jingxian was about to reach the black-clothed man, a stone slab fell from the sky and smashed into his body, pinning him to the ground. Second young master. Everyone in the Yi family turned pale with fright and hurried forward to lift the stone slab off Yi Jingshuan's back. Second young master, are you all right? At that moment, Yi Jingxian pushed against the ground and climbed up with difficulty. His eyes flashed with anger. Who was it? Who ambushed this young master just now? This was already the second time. The first time was during the blood test. His knee had been hit by a stone, causing him to kneel in front of Yi Jingxian. This time, he didn't know who ambushed him from behind. No one else noticed, but Yun Luofeng had caught a glimpse of Yun Zhao's actions. This man was always like that. After beating someone up, no one would know who it was. Yun Xiao sensed Yun Luofeng's gaze. She lowered her head and said in a low voice, if you don't feel satisfied, I'll use a mountain to crush him next time. Yun Luofeng blinked and said with a faint smile, all right, I want to see the scene of him being crushed by the mountain. She had said this sentence in a joking tone, but Yun Xiao had taken it seriously. Her pair of black eyes revealed a hint of contemplation. Yi Jingxian, Jun Fengling looked at Yi Jingxian in disdain. Do you have a guilty conscience and want to silence him? Guilty conscience? Yi Jingxian shuddered. What did you say? How could I have a guilty conscience? I didn't send this assassin. Why should I have a guilty conscience? At that moment, the black-clothed man who had fainted slowly regained consciousness. The moment he woke up, he heard Yi Jingshuan's voice. Instantly his body stiffened, and his clenched fists loosened. Cough, cough. The black-clothed man coughed dryly. The person who sent me wasn't the Yi family's second young master. I don't know him. I just don't like Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao. These words made Yi Jingxian raise his chin. Did you hear that? I didn't send him. Yun Luofeng is too good at provoking enemies. I say, sister-in-law, even if you want to find a wife, you can't find this kind of one. Don't think that she can do whatever she wants now that she has the protection of the royal family. There are many people in the world that she can't afford to offend. With her arrogant character, she will bring trouble to the Yi family sooner or later. So, Yi Jingxian paused, then continued, I announce that Yun Luofeng is expelled from the Yi family. A cold light flashed across Jun Fengling's eyes. Feng, didn't do anything wrong. What right do you have to chase her out? Yi Jingxian said coldly, I didn't do anything wrong? If she didn't do anything wrong, why would someone want to kill her for no reason? She must have done something wrong, so others wanted to kill her for revenge. Hence, I will write a divorce letter on Yun Zhao's behalf and divorce her. Dream on. Jun Fengling was so angry that her entire body was trembling. As a mother, I didn't even say that I would divorce Feng. As an uncle, what right do you have? Just because I'm the head of the Yi family, is that enough? He only divorced Yun Luofeng. He didn't capture her and sentence her to death. The royal family shouldn't be so unreasonable as to settle the score with him. As long as Yun Luofeng was divorced from the Yi family, Yun Xiao would lose someone who could help him. In that case, what right did Yi Jingxian have to fight with him? Second young master is right. If Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao hadn't done something, why would this assassin come all the way here to kill them? Chapter 883. I think this assassin is the one who's really pitiful. I don't know how much he suffered to have such a deep hatred, but now he's a prisoner. If I had a son like Yun Xiao, I would divorce Yun Luofeng first and force him to apologize to the assassin. In the eyes of the crowd, the assassin became the wrongdoer. On the contrary, Yun Luofeng, Yun Xiao, and the others who were almost assassinated became heinous evildoers. They might have killed the assassin's entire family, so the assassin came to take revenge. Otherwise, how could someone assassinate them for no reason? Mother, do you know who I admire the most? Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows and looked at Jun Fengling. Jun Fengling laughed. Who do you admire? I admire people with wild imaginations. Yun Luofeng's lips curled into an evil smile. They didn't even know the assassin's identity, but they imagined that I killed his entire family and dug up his ancestral grave. They also imagined that the assassin hated me and came all the way here to kill me. How did they know that the assassin came from a faraway place? Why didn't he stay with the Yi family? All the elders were furious. If it weren't for their fear of the emperor's favor for Yun Luofeng, they would have rushed up and tied the girl up to teach her a lesson. Sister-in-law. Yi Jingxuan's face darkened. I think Yun Luofeng should apologize to the assassin. This must be her fault. Otherwise, why did the assassin have to kill her instead of anyone else? You shameless. Yi Qi, who had been stunned by Yi Jingxuan's words, finally managed to squeeze out a few words. Her pretty face was flushed red as she glared at Yi Jingxian angrily. Yi Jingxian was impatient and glanced at her sternly. I'm talking to sister-in-law. Who gave you permission to interrupt? Get lost now. Boom. A strong force rushed out and hit Yi Qi's chest. Yi Qi spat out a mouthful of blood and took a few steps back. Yi Shima, who was behind her, held her. Don't speak. Yi Shima frowned slightly. We'll handle this. You're not strong enough, so don't get yourself into trouble. Yi Qi was stunned. She lowered her gaze, her eyes filled with unwillingness. She knew that Yi Shima was doing this for her own good, but she couldn't accept it. If she was strong enough, she would not be in such a passive position. When Jun Fengling saw the injured Yi Qi, his expression turned ugly. He said in a low voice, Yi Jingxian, Qi is right. You are a shameless person. Don't even think about making Feng apologize to you. Ha! Yi Jingxian laughed darkly. You can't blame me for that. This woman, Yun Luofeng, is vicious and merciless. My Yi family absolutely cannot keep her. Men, bring me a pen and paper. I want to divorce this woman on behalf of Yun Xiao. Let's see who dares. Jun Fengling shouted angrily and stood in front of Yun Luofeng. Her eyes were very domineering and she looked valiant. Yi Jingxian smiled mockingly. Just as he was about to speak, a shocked cry came from behind him. Second young master, be careful. Be careful? Be careful of what? Just as Yi Jingxian was looking around in confusion, he suddenly realized that the moonlight above him had been covered. A shadow was cast down, and he could not help but raise his head. Then horror appeared in his eyes, and he suddenly cursed, Motherfucker, who's throwing rubbish in the air? Boom. Under the man's horrified gaze, a mountain smashed down, directly covering his body, causing the entire ground to tremble. Chapter 884. Yun Xiao turned to look at Yun Luofeng, the corners of his cold lips curled up slightly. You like it? If Yun Xiao only knew how to move a stone slab, Yun Luofeng would not be so shocked. However, she never thought that this guy's will would be so strong that he could actually move a mountain. Seeing that Yun Luofeng didn't say anything, Yun Xiao pursed his thin lips and said, I used my will to search the surroundings just now and only found this mountain. If you think this mountain isn't big enough, I'll go look for an even bigger one later. Previously, when Yi Jingxian said that he wanted to divorce Yun Xiao did not stand up for his wife. That was because his will was used to find the mountain, so he did not hear Yi Jingxuan's words. Second young master. Everyone in the Yi family was scared out of their wits. After a long while, they rushed to the small mountain that was pressing down on Yi Jingxian. One of them turned to his companion and said, Quick, go get something and save the second young master. As soon as he said this, someone immediately went to get a shovel. One of them placed the shovel at the foot of the small mountain and used all his strength to lift it. Unfortunately, the small mountain was too heavy. In the end, even the shovel broke, he still could not lift it. At this moment, an elderly voice rang out from the sky, sounding dissatisfied. What happened? Why is it so noisy in the middle of the night? Also, who moved a mountain here? In the sky, Yi Xiang frowned slightly and looked coldly at the people below. Elder Yi Xiang, come help quickly. The second young master is being pressed down by this mountain. We can't get him out. What? Yi Xiang turned pale with fright and hurriedly walked down from the sky. His elderly hand pressed tightly against the mountain and with a bang, a powerful force penetrated the mountain. In an instant, the thick hill was pulverized by his attack, and the scattered stones fell into the courtyard. Yi Jingxian had long lost consciousness. His eyes rolled back and he lay motionless on the ground. Carry him back, I'll get a doctor to treat him. Yi Xiang waved his hand and ordered. Hearing this, two Yi family guards walked forward and carried Yi Jingxuan's body towards the back of the courtyard. The entire courtyard became quiet. Everyone was scared silly by the sudden scene and didn't know what to say for a moment. All right, who's going to tell me what's going on? Yi Xiang's cold eyes swept across the crowd. His gaze stopped on the assassin and he frowned slightly. Elder Yi Xiang, it's like this. Yun Luofeng killed this assassin's family, causing this assassin to come looking for trouble. We were dealing with this matter, but who knew that something unexpected would happen? In other words, the assassin was innocent, and all the crimes were caused by Yun Luofeng. She was the true sinner. Is that true? Yi Xiang's eyes darkened as he looked at Yun Luofeng and asked in a low voice. Yun Luofeng's lips curled up. I killed his family, so he came all the way here just to take my life. Is that right? That's right. The elder nodded furiously. That's right. Yun Luofeng gently stroked his chin. Since it's like this, it's easy to investigate this matter. Everyone who enters and exits the city gate will have a record. Since you said that he came from thousands of miles away, there must be proof that he entered and exited recently. The elder was stunned for a moment. He was just playing along with Yi Jingxuan's words. As for the assassin's origins, he had no idea at all. Chapter 885. Yi Xiang saw his hesitation and furrowed his brows. If you lie in front of me again, you should know what the consequences will be. Then he looked at the man in black and asked again, Tell me, what is your purpose for coming here? Who sent you here? If you don't give me an explanation, I won't forgive you. The man in black's eyes flashed and he scoffed. Yun Luofeng and I do have a grudge. She seduced my little brother, seized my family's property, and killed my entire family. However, I never thought of seeking revenge from her. Instead, I came to the imperial city and planned to live a peaceful life. Who knew that I would meet Yun Luofeng at this time? This woman seduced my little brother and monopolized my family's property. She even tried to drug me. Because of this, I attacked her. No one sent me. He insisted that Yun Luofeng was in the wrong first and that he was an innocent man. He even raised Yun Luofeng's behavior to the level of indiscreet. He didn't believe that the Yi family would want a woman who tried to seduce men time and time again. As expected, the man in black's words angered the Yi family's elders again. Each of them glared at Yun Luofeng. Seduce men? TSK, this girl is actually this kind of person. You really don't know a person's face. Eldest young master, how can a woman like this be qualified to become the Yi family's daughter-in-law? You should quickly ask your son to divorce her. Hearing those people's words, Yi Jingxin's expression was very ugly. He was about to scold them when he saw Yun Xiao take off the spatial ring on her finger. Then, the spatial ring flashed and countless crystals and medicinal ingredients appeared in the courtyard. There were even a few weapons made of cold iron. If they were taken out, each of them would be a priceless treasure. Feng, all these years, I haven't given you any gifts. Take these treasures as my betrothal gift to you. Betrothal gift? Yun Luofeng wanted to say that he had already given the betrothal gift. However, he suddenly came back to his senses and a smile appeared on his face. This man is doing this on purpose. Didn't you say that I seduced your little brother for your property and now I'm seducing you? Then I'll take out the treasures in my hands to slap your face. This is all I have. I'm giving it all to you now. If you think it's too little, I'll work even harder for our future. Yun Zhao's expression was serious. No one would be able to see through the man's cold exterior and what he was thinking. Jun Fengling and Yi Jingxin looked at each other. This was the first time they realized how two-faced their son was. This was a resounding slap of the face. With so many treasures, even the Yi family, which had a deep foundation, could not compare. How could Yun Luofeng seduce a man for a little bit of family wealth? Even the man was more handsome than Yun Xiao. The man in black's body went limp and he collapsed to the ground. Yun Zhao's domineering actions had completely shocked him. At the same time, it sent a chill down his spine. Yun of Yi of. What else do you have to say? Yi Xiang sneered. And you guys, what other people say you believe it? The items in Yun Zhao's hands are more than enough to buy his entire family. Why would Yun Luofeng sacrifice himself for this? Even though Yi Xiang was unhappy with Yun Zhao's refusal to acknowledge his ancestry, he would still choose to protect him for Yi Jingxin's sake.